Unmute my check. Oh, did I even guys it down? Hello, everyone. Welcome to Black Betterment Broadcast. Let me get the show underway. I'm your host, Rap Raven. I'm just gonna give me 17 seconds to find my PDF, which I seem to have misplaced. Never good, never good, never good. Hold on. Let's see if we can find it. It should be in the shows. Da, da, da. There it is. Let me open. Yep, looks like it's there. Fantastic. All right. All right. Let's open that. Okay, cool. That's good. So let me do this. Welcome all. Tell your friends we're live. We're here to help Black people. It's always good. Very few do, but we do. And so it's the 56th show, isn't it? No, it doesn't matter. We'll update that another time. Cool. All right. This is the 156th show, even though it says opposite on the screen. Let me just get more space. Run out of space here. Small screen. Read mode. It's better. Look at that. Full screen. All right. Let's see if I can do this the right way. So we're going to read how we always start. And it is when it comes to working as a collective with only Black people on matters that benefit Black issues, Black progression, and Black ownership, Black people are collectively inadequate. Individually, you might find some non-Black person who shows some kind of camaraderie towards Black people. However, collectively, Black people have no friends, and constructive Black man with constructive Black woman makes a constructive Black family. Let me just close this window on them. It's very hot. Today's quite a hot day. Or is it just me? Oh, that's bad. All right. Cool. So we're going to obviously highlight the 4D values. Guests, you are welcome to jump on today's live, but when you do, don't forget the 4D values, which are discipline, dedication, dignity, and discernment. Don't forget those. And please do not use any derogatory language. Use descriptive language whenever you can, especially when you're trying to find solutions. That's very handy indeed. Now, what is Black Betterment for those who are new? Black Betterment is Black people helping Black people on Black issues for betterment. That's right. Black Betterment is a lifestyle, and we promote that lifestyle here. We will be showing many videos today. They're not ours, but we're using them on the fair use and just for reporting, scholarship, and research purposes. Please don't forget to follow Black Betterment Building, the Instagram, Black Betterment Building, and you'll find us. Very good. Now, let's go to our very good show. Now, let me just put the link in there. We should also at some point be joined by Sister Empress Kush when she gets down. So whenever she decides to come in, we'll put her forward. Let me just also put the link there. Copy. This is for everyone to jump in when you want. Da-da-da. All right. Let me turn the TV down as well. All right. I think that's around here. So cool. So what we'll do is we'll go through the normal show, and then when Sister turns up, today we're going to have a special guest, Empress Kush, but whenever she turns up, she can jump in, and she might have a week-to-week segment. Very skillful, intelligent sister there. So it was an honor and privilege to have her on the live show. And anyone who also wants to have a section, let us know. There's something you want to cover. By all means, you can have your own section. That's how we get down here. Get rid of that. Cool. So which one? So for those who don't know, we got the two topics I'll be covering is how can we protect women from being attacked by men within the Black community, and also how can we support the victims of predators within the Black community. So, look, here we go. Welcome, Empress Kush. Welcome. If you want to jump in now and do your thing now, you can. If you want to wait after, let us know, Empress Kush, when you want to jump in and do your thing. No rush. But whatever you want, let us know, and we'll make it so. Okay, where are we? So, so two topics. So, how can we protect women from being attacked from men within the Black community? This comes from a story. There was a lady, a sister in somewhere in America, a sister of Somali descent, and I think the story is that she was, I guess, out and about in some kind of club scene. She was just there, and I think she said a gentleman or a man asked for a number, and she declined. And unfortunately, he threw a brick at her face. And this is obviously unacceptable. This is definitely the behavior we're going to try to fix. This is not a normal behavior. So definitely, the person does this needs to be caught in some manner. and that would be the normal story. But then it also escalated into the sister felt that none of the men around her actually did anything to help the sister, and then this became a social network news thread of men not protecting women. But then also there was some other slight mitigating circumstances, not necessarily towards the brick, because that's just what it is. Yeah, that's wrong, and there is no right to that. I think towards maybe some of the men who said they knew her and they accused her of being a troublemaker and this kind of stuff. And she this is something that she does. So I don't know how true that is. We've got some videos to see if we can unpack that. And she has made some kind of social network kind of, I don't know, cosplay, role playing kind of race play sort of stuff, very peculiar, and that's obviously problematic as well. We'll unpack that. Yeah, so we're gonna unpack that soon. But also, we also had a few weeks back, maybe even 2 years now. It might actually be 2 years. That's how long time goes by. There's a brother called Brother Polite. Michael Nowak is his real name, or his birth name, and he was a person who was in like what they call the conscious community, and he was very, very, very intelligent speaker, very intelligent speaker. But then as time started going by, there started with issues of allegedly he was scamming people out of money, and this became an issue. And then it kind of became a bit more famous and popular, and he started a lot of the pro-black presentation he had changed to like trying to be a rapper, a money man, and hanging with white women, this kind of stuff. Um, so but by this point he already developed the following, and I think there was some other scams where he took people's money and didn't give it back, and there was one gentleman who killed himself, unfortunately, because of the I guess the trauma that was caused by it. And we covered that not too long ago. But then as of recently, or at least 2 years ago, he was they said he sexually assaulted a woman described as his wife or his sister wife, uh, his daughter who was 14. He sexually assaulted her in some way. And then what's happening? The trial has come back, and yeah, he's been arrested for this. So we actually have to finish the streaming. So we're going to cover that, and I guess a lot of the shenanigans he played, and I guess how as a community we can defend ourselves from charlatans, people who harm black people. I guess with people like him, for me, it was very easy to see. He was very good speaker, but very amateur at covering his tracks at the mistreatment he did, unfortunately. Fortunately, I guess. But yeah, I guess it's like, how do you detect these kind of charlatans? And we're gonna also cover one guy who's on some guys was insulting Sister Afro, so we're gonna cover that as well. Some very very problematic guy from the UK. We're gonna cover maybe next week or week after. We'll see if we get time. I think she's actually going over it now on her show, but sadly our show's got the same time. Never good, so I can't hear it. But I would like to jump in and support, and good work the sisters doing there, trying to defend black women from assault and that stuff. And we have to support here, of course. So I guess black women, yeah. So whenever Empress Kush is ready, she can jump in. But for now, until then, let's go over the first story, which is the sisters not being protected. So I'll be quick. Here we go. Video. Let me just find a video for you, family. I think I blackified it, so it shouldn't be too problematic. Here we go. Let's see the story, and there's a gentleman who goes through it very helpfully for us.
Holding her was hit in the face with a brick.
Oh, yeah.
Because she basically refused to not give out a phone number. And nobody did a damn thing about it. Here it is.
Yo, this man just hit me in my face with a brick, and all these black men just watch, and they don't give a yeah, this man hit me, grabbed a rock, and it hit me in my face because I would have given him my number. And all y'all just watch. What do you want to see?
What do you want? So for those who can't see, there's a sister there. She was hit with a brick in I assume some kind of nightclub scenario. Maybe not. And yeah, she's not displeased, and she's saying the black men. And what you can do is you can hear them saying, "What do you want me to do? What do you want me to do?" This actually is the more. Well, there's three parts of the story, but there's two that's, I guess, most important. One is the fact that there's a person who's throwing bricks at women, allegedly for trying to get their number. So I don't understand how you can try to be with a woman and then throw a brick at her. This is peculiar behavior, and also something we cannot tolerate in the community. But then also to the response from the men. And some men, obviously, you get a lot of men who say things like they don't want to put their life at risk. We can unpack that, but then also it's more so it's the little you can do. It's the phoning for help, seeing if the sister's okay, taking numbers down, and none of that seems to have been done. And this is the issue. Now, some other men have gone to say that this woman has problematic behavior from the past, as in she's some kind of social provocateur who has, some kind of style of doing social videos, and we'll go over that as well. I think the man will cover it. And also, I think she's got a fundraiser that some people think might be problematic at some point, but we'll cover that.
What do y'all do? I want y'all to be a man. I want y'all to be a man. Do something. Y'all gonna let a man hit me in my face? What have I ever done to anybody in my life to deserve this?
We apologize any trauma that people might go through for listening to this.
I never did anything in my life to hurt anybody. Literally, a man asked me for my number. I said no, and he picked up a brick in front of so many men and was like, "What you gonna do?" And I told all these men, like, "Yo, why is this man got a brick on my face?" And he's holding a brick, and all these is watching, and nobody does nothing. And he hits me in my face, and then they all just watch, and they let that get in the corner. How is this okay? This is what y'all doing to women?
I got more video. I have more insight, more update. But I want to say this. I come from a particular neighborhood where that would not have been allowed. Now, a lot of people, they have negative things to say about the neighborhood I was raised in. But I promise you, something like that would have never happened in front of any of us. Let's go to the next video.
I was one of the guys who was there that did not help her when she was getting hit with the brick, right? I feel like people need to know the whole story before they start commenting and saying things they don't understand or they don't know. You guys don't even remember who you guys are trying to defend, who you guys are trying to speak up for. This is the same woman that was going around smacking white people in the streets. She's not innocent. She was actually taunting the guy to hit her. Why would I go defend somebody that's actually looking for trouble? This woman, she is literally a troublemaker. Everybody that knows her in our community knows she's a troublemaker. I'm not going to risk my life over somebody that's actually out there looking for trouble. If you go on social media, online, you're going to see some of her antic videos, taunting people, looking for a reaction. Well, she got what she's been looking for, and you guys are giving her the attention that she was actually seeking for. I don't regret not standing up for her. If you look at some of the videos, I was there. I don't regret nothing whatsoever. I don't regret standing up for her. I'm not saying she deserved it. I'm not saying that any men have a right to hit a woman, especially with a brick. Nobody deserves that. But at the end of the day, there's more to the story. She's not as innocent as she's trying to portray herself to be. She wants attention. She's an attention-seeker woman. She's trying to go viral, and you guys have given her what she wanted. Yes, she did get hit by a brick. Yes, I saw it. Yes, I was standing by doing nothing. And if that happened again in the same circumstances, I will watch. Because she's not as innocent as she portrays herself to be. She was taunting the guy. She was calling him all type of names. She was degrading him to a point where he resulted in picking up a brick and hitting him. But now, I'm posting a video telling my truth, telling what I saw, and people are like, where's your proof? Well, you want me to go back to the scene of the crime and pick up the brick and show you, oh, there's a brick that hit her right across her face. Is that what you want? Like, I'm going to use your comment to also address other people. You know, people are calling me a coward. That's okay. You can call me all you want. All I know is I'm alive. I got my health with me right now. I got to go home to my daughter that night. You know what I'm saying? I got to go home to my daughter. That's all that matters at the end.
I mean, yeah, the thing is that there's many men built different, and some men, they're not as physical or courageous. Despite a person's upbringing, you don't have to be Rambo to be seen as brave. You can, if you don't feel you can interject and stop and use words or use your physicality, you can try to help the victims. You can say kind words. This individual has not done that. So he's watched the sister get attacked, whether she was rude or not, and everything he's saying is not on the side of, I guess, of the victim. and to an extent you could see this as victim blaming, regardless of how her attitude was. If the story was there where a guy was asked for a number, regardless of what conspired, a brick was used. I can't think of any scenario where a man would hit a woman with a brick in a situation where a man is trying to woo a woman into marriage or some kind of a romantic love affair or something like this, right? I can't see where the brick is the outcome, right? Even if she said you're ugly or this kind of stuff, clearly is an issue. And obviously the men around weren't might not be raised a certain way, or this might be a part of the bigger issue with certain black men in certain scenarios where education has to happen because so much has been lost. But some people have different opinions, and by all means, let us know.
The day, I am not about to protect somebody. I am not about to risk my life for somebody that's out there looking for trouble.
They keep saying she was looking for trouble. Let me first say this to you very scared individuals who called yourselves men. You all have admitted you're afraid, okay? At least we know. Now you all are viral, okay? To the first commenter who said, well, she was slapping somebody, she was going around slapping somebody. It was a white male. This person is not innocent. That was actually a skit. She had permission. It was a skit.
Let's pause there. We'd like to welcome Empress Kush and Brother Cal to the broadcast. Welcome, family.
Black Betterment, Brother Raven. Black Betterment, Sister Kushti.
Black Betterment family, Black Betterment to the chat, Black Betterment, Brother Raven, Black Betterment, Brother Cal.
Should I see this segment out and then introduce you to then bring you up? Will that be right?
Yeah, that would be great.
So we're just gonna listen to a few more minutes of this. I'll give my conclusion, and obviously we'll move on to the sister. Then we can come back to this and what the sister talks about, as well as the other topic towards the end when it's people's choice of what they wish to discuss.
And that skit was reported by the Shade Room, sir. It was a skit. To the second individual, the fact that you all are even going on social media to defend yourself. See, my grandmother taught me well. She taught me this too: a hit dog will holler. And so that's why you all are going on social media. I'm glad you're doing it, actually. Okay, because I think.
So give some other context. Now, I don't know if he's going to go over it. He's obviously not best pleased, and I don't blame him. There is some other context, and the other context is this sister. She has a history of, and I don't know if I've actually got. Let me see if I've got any of that videos. Now, this has nothing to do with the fact that men didn't defend her and she needs to be protected. Do I have anything?
There's been instances.
I don't know that one. But basically, what it was, I think one, she did some role play where she talks to European men, white men, and she tries to do a role play where she slaps them for slavery or racism or something like this, right? And then she starts dancing around. Not the best. It looks like cosplay. It's definitely not something we should be doing. And I think she never reported the crime, and people wonder why she didn't do that. And then she might have one or two or three. I don't know if she's controlling them. She knows about them, but free GoFundMe pages. So people are wondering why she didn't report the crime at all. Maybe she doesn't trust the police, or maybe she's trying to do the attacker a favor. Until she speaks, we don't know. But to answer to the guys who were because you see this a lot, as in don't defend women because of this, and you have men who only want to defend sisters, wives, and mothers. That's not how communities work, and I'm not too sure when that kind of happened. And what happens, a lot of those men are the most predominant speakers, so they'll try to, silence real men, constructive men, or strong men who see a value in doing something productive for a victim of an attack, that being a woman. So I think there's a brother who said something I thought was very interesting. Let's hear his stuff. Hold on. Yeah, they said it's only 7 seconds to say it.
In New York, where a black man has stepped in to protect a woman, and he unlost his life.
So this is something that you get a lot of men, and don't get me wrong, a lot of the new age manosphere, black pill, red pill, this is their talking point, you know, and I guess that's what it is, because you have men, you get men who grew up in a certain kind of street life or kind of warrior life, and then men who maybe didn't, and then I guess so the men who didn't, you know, we applaud going down, I guess, the books way and stuff, definitely. But one of the problems I see is, especially in the red pill, this kind of like, oh, if I defend women, I might die, and you know, or if I help the women, you know, that they might turn on me because they secretly love the man harming them, that kind of stuff. Not that this gentleman is saying that. I think he's giving an example.
He ended up in the hospital. So there is that fear of, I don't know this woman, but if I step in, there could be harm to myself.
And that's something, unfortunately, I seem to see quite a lot, unfortunately, in the black community worldwide. And that's like, obviously not everywhere. There's clearly many warrior spirit places, but once again, with new philosophies coming forward, I'm seeing this a lot. Something we need to address. And I think the brother who's sitting with him, Brother Islam, does a good response rebuttal.
Like, this is not a woman, this is not my family, this is not my sister. We do got to get back to community and back to the nuclear families. The majority of situations are brothers standing up, sisters standing up for each other, elders, grandparents, a lot of them standing up for each other. Those videos are not posted enough. The problem is we keep watching ourselves losing on the internet. Psychologically, I'm programmed to believe that if I do the right thing, I'm going to lose. I mean, I know that sister, but she probably think I'm trying to get at her, I'm trying to do this. No, I really just saw this dude smack you. I don't know what the situation is, but clearly he didn't have to do that to you. I just wanted to make sure you was okay. And she may be turning up because, again, where she is mentally, and vice versa. Same thing with us as brothers. I know for a fact if we promote more of us winning, more of us standing up, doing what's right, and us surviving after, and us actually coming together and some conflict resolution was handled and we resolved some issues, more of those videos going up will inspire more of us to get involved in it. There's been instances.
So that's a good point there. If we start posting winning videos, this will change the narrative, because whenever something happens, anyone can make up a story at that point of something. Oh, this could happen, that could happen. And unfortunately, you find many black men around some of the internet spaces, they tend to go for those kind of stories of, what if I help a woman and, you know, she doesn't appreciate, and her and the man I'm helping her from jump me because she secretly loves him, and then they kill me and I end up in heaven or whatever. And this is the kind of, you know, the mindset that some men have. And I understand it. But we have to reverse it, really. You can't have a community where this is how men process information. It doesn't really work. But yeah, so what I'm going to do is there's much of that. We'll come back to it. And I think I might have had one more video, but we'll come back to it another time maybe. But because we are joined by Empress, Kush, and King Karen, we're going to give them the floor. So let me just add that to the stage. So family, Empress, is there anything you need me to upload or do? Can I give you permission to do anything? Let's see. Invite. I don't.
I'm not sure the mechanics of it. But I've got some videos and stuff, but obviously you can't blackify them. Okay. So we can just, you know, I've seen other people get away with maybe just putting in the speed quicker, stopping it in between talking. I don't know the statement off by heart, but I'm not sure if you do, because you've had to say it for so long. You can say that this is just for whatever purposes and things like that. I think we should be okay though.
All right, well, let's see if it gets.
Yeah, I mean, if there's anything on there that you know that will just let me know.
It's usually things like news and stuff and they've got their own news channel, maybe, that usually things up, but it depends on the type of news. But how am I to upload it? Can you click?
Can you share screen on here? Because I've just done myself a little PowerPoint.
Yeah. So
I could just click through that.
If you go to, can you go share screen?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I think it's called.
Let me know if it blocks you or anything like that. Do I have to give you permission or something? Let me know. Slides. So the share screen should be at the bottom there. Mute, start cam, settings.
Yeah, no. I've got that.
Yes.
I've just got to find the thing that I want to.
I guess, and just reading some stuff. Play sound. I guess can stream this destination.
For some reason, I can't find the actual document that I want to share. So just give me a second.
Take your time, brother Cal. How you doing, brother? Welcome. Have you seen this news, brother Cal?
Yeah, brother, we've been discussing this on other panels. My wife even discussed it with me as well. So but I just want to say, brothers, that for some brothers who are listening, you gotta understand that the women have reached a level where they don't have to respect us no more. And when we're dealing with female logic and male logic, is that because they have that mindset of nothing's been done for me, not being protected, no economics, is that they're going to have a mindset where they don't have to overlook and have respect for us no more. That means they're going to talk to you the way how they believe and deserve you to be talked to. Because at the end of the day, who are you and what are you doing for me? And now we're seeing the epidemic of our sisters showing the reflection of, I am sick or tired of you men. And we, brother, have to teach the young ones about understanding rejection and how to be stoic in this political warfare of gender, black male versus black female. And if we don't do this, brother, our sisters are going to have to retaliate, and the brothers are going to retaliate back. And there's going to be an epidemic of no longer the police shooting black people. It's going to be black women shooting black men. And we have to analyze and take this situation very seriously, Brother Raven, because it's a very serious epidemic.
Yeah, I'm seeing that pattern unfold. It is inevitable that those things are going to unfold. And like I said, we're trying to get a good conversation going. I think it's I don't like doing it, but maybe it's giving the education of how men have behaved historically, especially black men, and what has actually happened to have so many black men deflated. I understand there's new philosophies coming out that in the internet that might do it or contribute to it, but it's very shocking because what tends to happen is the actual fact that a man has hit a woman with a brick doesn't seem to be the issue. And oh, is that you? Hold on. There you go. Yeah, it says you got a slide on your. Let's see if I can. I don't know. Yeah, that doesn't seem to be the issue, and that's a problem. It's
sorry to interrupt. Have you received it?
I've received.
I had to literally upload the PDF, though.
So
I think it's under as a slide, perhaps on your side.
Add to stage. Yeah.
There you go. Yeah, there we have it.
Okay. Actually, it worked. So, do you? I mean, this is all new to me because, but how?
This is new to me as well, but clearly I'm a bit more tech savvy than I gave myself credit for. So
the thing is, I can see something which says slide 1, slide 2. Can you see that? So you might
no. So you're gonna have to. No, I can see something saying that. So hopefully I can.
Yeah. So you can just press the next slide when you're ready, and the last one, I guess. Yeah. All right. So do I give you full screen or do? Yeah, I've given you full screen. Everyone, we want to give a round of applause for Empress, Sister Kush, Empress Kush. She's going to do our presentation. And yeah, we give it to you, sis. There you go. It's all working, it looks like.
Okay. 1 second. Sorry, family. This is all a bit new, and I feel like my slides are kind of out of whack. So if they are, oh no, they're fine. Okay. Shall I just start then?
Yeah, see what happens, and then we'll see what happens.
No problem. So this is just the first of a segment that we agreed to be doing, and it's just to kind of watch what's currently going on in regards to Africa and the quote unquote revolutions that are happening. Some say a coup, some say a revolution, some say they're going to wait and see. And with all of those kind of answers, we're going to kind of try and go through it just with an open heart. So just state out the facts and see it in a black betterment perspective. So the first thing that I wanted to do, because we're talking about the current coups, is I did want to do a video, because we was talking about going through that, and I feel like there's so much happening at once right now, with so much different entities and things like that. I felt that if we could maybe just give it context and start from kind of like the beginning, I think then when we have discussions, it'll be easier, if that makes more sense. Obviously, I can't start from beginning to where we are now because so much has happened, but I just felt that I could put in some key points. Within each slide, I will start and I'll try to look at comments, but the brothers here will probably help me do that as well. And anything that I've left out that the family feels that I might have left out and there's a good point to add, please feel free to jump on and talk and contribute. I know Brother Raven and Brother Kel's here to support as well, but feel free to click the link and jump in with anything you might think that needs to be added, or put it in the comments. So my first thing is actually a video, probably just make things a bit more tricky, Brother Raven, if you're still there. I'm not sure if I can share this or if I just send the link to you in the private chat. Would that be easier?
The problem we've had with videos that's from YouTube directly is I think the audio, whether the audio is being isn't picked up through the streaming but through the microphone of the listener. So that might be. So do you know how long that video is? Is it many videos? I'm just thinking if I could download it.
Oh, it's about 10-15 minutes, but I was going to put it 1.5 and speed it up, because I've seen people speed it up and they've seemed to get by because it's not a normal.
What we can do is I can share. So I'm going to open up this thing. If you give me the link in the chat, I can share the
okay.
The web, but I can't. People at home have to let me know if they can hear it. Let's see if they can.
Yeah, it's not so much seeing; it's just so they can have. It's just a brief. Yeah, I've posted it there for you.
Let me.
I just thought it'd be good to start with something, just a brief,
Give me 17 seconds.
History of what's happened with France and Africa.
Oh, I've got it here. I'm gonna
apply with the CV.
I'm just gonna share. So
and maybe just 1 point, speed it up a little.
Let me see if that technique was. So how did you do it on YouTube again?
Recruiters can't
you
ignore.
Go to settings.
Yep, and then.
And what does it say?
Options, maybe.
Playback speed. It should say normal. If you click on it, you can go to 1.25 or 1.5.
CVmaker.uk. It's funny when you click on this, so many adverts. Give me 17 seconds, family. It's almost there. All right. So there's a thing. Go to settings, quality, substitute, playback speed. There we go. And what? 1.5 or
yeah, put on 1.5. Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Okay, cool. All right, so we got that, and now I'm going to share that on your screen. It's almost done. Almost there. Present. Stop screen. Present. Share screen. Window, and here we go. Yeah, so there it is.
Okay, just
drop it out like that. Press play. You want to go to 1 minute where?
Yeah, you could just go to, yeah.
Slaves. The French were the third biggest slave traders. They took around 1.3 million Africans to their colonies in the Americas. Around 200,000 people never made it. They perished at sea. As
You
the
guys say
slave trade
this?
developed, France needed ports. They got one in 1659 here in Saint Louis in Senegal. For a long time, French interests were limited to coastal Africa. The interiors were untouched. But in the 19th century, that changed. There were two reasons for that. One was the domestic rivalry back home. The European powers were already competing with each other. Africa became a new theater. And reason number two was resources. Europe needed to feed its expanding industries. They zeroed in on this area. It was called the Gold Coast. There was gold, oil, and much more there. The French expansion began from Senegal. In 1854, General Louis Faidherbe was appointed governor. He quickly got down to business. Under his rule, French control was extended to Gambia. But his ambitions were bigger. He wanted to conquer the Niger Delta and Mali. His government was not so keen, though. They thought it would be too expensive, so the expansion project was paused. It would resume in the 1880s. This was the beginning of the scramble for Africa. No shadow wars anymore. European armies were marching across the continent. They were picking off countries one by one. This inevitably led to fighting between European powers, so the German chancellor proposed a plan. This man, Otto von Bismarck. He brought all the European countries together in Berlin. In 1885, these countries signed the Berlin Act. It formalized the scramble for Africa, and the logic was quite simple. Instead of fighting each other, let's carve up the continent. Each country gets its own colony. And no, the Africans were not consulted. In the 1880s, almost 80% of the continent was ruled by the locals, kings, sultans, and tribal chiefs. By 1900, it was flipped. Around 90% of Africa was colonized by Europe, and Niger was part of this. In 1899, two French officers were put on the job. Captain Paul Vollet would lead this mission, and the second in command was Julien Chanoine. Both men had one thing in common, their bloodlust. They set off from Dakar in Senegal. Their job was this: explore Chad and Niger, gather local intelligence, reach the Sudan, and return. Basically, create this ribbon of French territory, from Senegal in the west to the Sudan in the east. Captain Vollet had a reputation. He led the French conquest of Burkina Faso in 1896. He was ambitious and brutal. His expedition to the Sudan is called many things: the Killer Trail, the African Apocalypse, the Heart of Darkness. Gives you an idea of what went down. It was one of the most violent and bloody episodes in colonial history, not just in Africa, but the whole world. Vollet's mission was not well funded, so at the first village he reached, he demanded porters. He needed people to carry things, and the locals denied. He raised the entire village, around 100 people wiped out. It was a sign of things to come. Vollet often refused to feed his camp followers. When they complained, he killed them. Men, women, and children were bayoneted to death, not shot, bayoneted, because Vollet wanted to save bullets. Such massacres followed him everywhere. It was so bad that word reached the French government in Paris. Vollet's own soldiers were horrified by the violence. Some of them deserted. When Paris got to know, they ordered Vollet and Chanoine to be arrested. They deputed a French officer from Mali. He followed the expedition's trail to catch them. What he saw was blood-curdling. At one village, around 1,000 corpses had been left in the open. Bodies of young girls were hanging from trees. People were terrified by the French flag. It was a sign of impending death. The bid to arrest Vollet and Chanoine did not work. In the end, both were killed by their own soldiers, but the mission continued. French troops marched through the Sahara and secured the region. Their African project was complete. It looked like this: a federation of 8 territories: Mauritania, Senegal, Mali, Guinea, Ivory Coast, Burkina Faso, Benin, and Niger. The capital was Dakar. This whole region was called French West Africa. Fun fact, it was 8 times bigger than European France. So how did they control it? The same way they captured it, using brute force. France did face rebellions in the first decades after the conquest, like the Tuareg rebellion of 1916. The Tuaregs are an ethnic group living in the Saharas. In Niger, they live in the country's north. When the Tuaregs rebelled, France crushed them. Summary executions were the norm. It was through these crackdowns that Paris held on to its colonies. Many of them fought wars for France. Around 2.5 million Africans were part of the First World War, another 1 million in the Second World War. These people were not French citizens, they were French subjects. And that equation changed only after the Second World War in 1946. Niger, along with other colonies, became overseas territories. They got seats in parliament, and with elections came political parties. The most important one was the PPN, the Progressive Party of Niger. 2 men came to dominate this party: the radical Djibo Bakari and the moderate Hamani Diori. They were cousins, also rivals. An important moment came in 1958. France had adopted a new constitution. Its colonies now had to vote on it, sort of like a referendum. If Niger passed it, the country would remain in the French community. The cousin politicians chose different sides. The radical Bakari called for a boycott, but Diori said, let's vote yes. He did not want independence yet. He wanted more autonomy within France, and he prevailed in 1958. Around 72% of Niger's citizens voted to approve the constitution. He also became the new president. But the tide was slowly shifting. Dissent was growing in parts of Niger, especially the northern deserts. So in 1960, France had to give in. They agreed to grant independence to Niger. Diori was elected president again. He banned all other parties, cracked down on rivals, and ruled like an autocrat. Now, normally the story would end here. But in West Africa, it does not. France began acting like a toxic ex, hanging around too much, or meddling for no reason. This policy has a name too: France-Afrique, a sphere of French influence in West Africa. It was the brainchild of this man, former French President Charles de Gaulle. He asked his advisors to build up France-Afrique in 1962. And how did they do that? By building personal networks. France propped up leaders, often dictators in West Africa. They gave them military support, a little aid, and a whole lot of French glamour. What did they get in return? Resources and influence. More than 1,000 French companies operate in West Africa. They have the third biggest investments. First is America, second is Britain. They also have soldiers there. France has deployed 3,000 troops in Africa. Around half of them are in Niger. Their job is to fight terror groups. But you can see why this is problematic. Imagine Britain stationing soldiers in India. Terrorism or not, it's an affront. From the 1980s, French presidents have promised to dilute France-Afrique. Macron has done so too. But their actions suggest the opposite. I have some trivia for you. 14 countries in Africa use the same currency. It's called the CFA franc. It was created back in 1945, before African independence. But even today, 14 countries use it. And I'll tell you how it works. West African countries deposit 50% of their reserves at the French treasury. In return, they can use the CFA franc. Its value is pegged to the euro. France says the currency brings stability to West Africa, but it also brings trauma, the trauma of a colonial past. The CFA franc is often called monetary servitude. It is one of the many reminders of French colonialism. Now you know why people in Niger dislike France. They plundered and razed entire villages, raped and mutilated women and children, imposed a colonial currency on them, and most importantly, refused to leave. France is a strange case. Most countries are blamed for their colonial policies, but France is also blamed for its post-colonial policies. Of course, that does not justify the coup, but it does explain why a lot of people support it. President Macron has always had a taste for foreign policy. He wants to leave a mark on the world. Maybe this is it. He could be the president who destroyed France-Afrique. Mali has moved away from French influence, so has Burkina Faso and now Niger. He may not have intended it, but that could be his legacy.
Cool. Let's get the next one.
Thank you for that, bro. So I just wanted to start off just to give us sort of like, I know most of us know the history, but it's always good to get reminded of it. I think the fact that she started from literally the inception of the Frenchman stepping onto the land, and how she literally was talking about Bukhara, I can't say the name properly, all the way up to literally present day, just shows how ruthless the French is. And there were some key things that stood out to me, just like when she said that, you know, a lot of the colonialist European countries were before, but they're still complaining about how vicious it is post. They're still, and that's I just wanted to get that kind of feeling across, that these countries that are under the French, it seems like they're scrutinized, and the punishment and just the treatment of them is terrible, and it has been terrible since inception. Just to get an understanding that since these people stepped foot and the countries were carved out, which we all know in the Berlin Conference, French have had their foothold and their foot on these African countries' necks till now. So I just want to give that understanding, and for us to really understand what it's like and why people would be so frustrated. So the next video, we're starting at, thank you, bro, it's already lined up. It's starting at 59 minutes. And this is one of our brothers leading on it. I will say the last video was on First Point YouTube. I think it's an Indian-based YouTube, because I remember there was a brother before talking about where he goes to. So I did say that I'll start showing where I go to look for the news. I definitely look outside of the West, and of course countries like India, Russia, South America, they don't necessarily are as West affiliated, so they will say more of the truth that you won't necessarily get with the BBC, CNNs and all of that. So this one here is another channel. I'm sure I'll be able to get it up in a second once it plays. But what I like about these kinds of channels is that they go out to find either the Pan-African brother or an African person's perspective to speak on it. So this brother will be speaking on what it is in today's time, how the French are really handling these countries. So we'll just listen to that for a little bit, and then I'll start talking with my other slides after that. It's not much video.
But we know of these links between these organizations, and I don't think we can just dismiss the suspicions and fears of Africans as conspiracy theories on this front. I think we have to continue to look into this. I think there needs to be continued investigative reporting on this front. But either way, that's partially why that speaks more or less to the point I think that you're trying to raise here, which is, you know, what is the role of this? And I want to just make one quick connection, because the point you made about the sort of connection between the current reality and colonialism is very real. I mean, you know, in China, of course, they talk a lot about the 100 years of humiliation, and that the Chinese Revolution put an end to the 100 years of humiliation. Well, Africa has had like 500 years of humiliation. And I think a lot of it is quite recent, quite frankly, in terms of colonialism. And when you look at the history of these areas, and you look again, and this is, I think, the thing about the anti-French element that people really have to grasp here, and the broader anti-colonial element, is this area of West Africa is historically extremely rich. I mean, this is the heartland of many of the greatest empires. The Mali Empire, led by the great Mansa Musa, who who of course did his fantastic trek to Egypt, where he had so much gold, he devalued the currency of Egypt for a generation, of Askia Muhammad, the Askia the Great, and the empire of Songhai, I believe that was, of the Sokoto Caliphate, and Usman Dan Fodio, of the Hausa kingdoms, which were, city-states basically that were some of the greatest centers of Islamic learning and wealth in the ancient world. And so this is a history that African people know, but they've been so degraded. We have been so degraded as African peoples, quite frankly, around the world because of colonialism, because of slavery. And then you have this situation now where these people are coming in and they're saying, if you don't like it, it's a conspiracy theory. If you want something different, you're controlled by Russia. If you want your own, currency, well, Africans can't manage their own thing anyway, so it's better to be tied to us. The extreme arrogance of leaders like Macron and others when they go to Africa, or I note from where you are when he goes to Lebanon, they lecture people, which is just, it's absurd. I mean, I remember when Hillary Clinton went to Africa and did her tour during the Obama administration, and she goes to every country and lectures them on corruption, as if America can teach anyone about corruption. I mean, look at what we're seeing in our mainstream press now about the Supreme Court justices, all on the payroll of billionaires. But nonetheless, this is something that is deeply felt. It's the continuation of the historical past, and it still hurts. It's rubbing salt in the wound because it's a continuation of this idea that African peoples are ignorant, are incapable, are lesser, have no agency, cannot operate and control their own countries outside of the aegis of Western eyes and control. And those things drive politics in a way that I think the mainstream Western media either doesn't want to admit or often wants to dismiss, and doesn't want to put it in its full context. And that's why people will say, yes, do a coup, take over, kick these people out, because all they've ever done is sell us off to the highest bidder around the world, and we want that to stop. And if people speak to that, people will rally behind them. Now, if they don't speak to that, then we'll see what happens subsequently. And we've seen this in other places over the years that, you make one change, it's not enough for the masses of people, and you think you're going to stay in there, and they'll sweep you right out yet again. And I think that we're seeing this social explosion happening in West Africa is the key driver of this entire thing. A generation of Africans who do not want to live in humiliation, poverty, and subordination, and are building movements, building organizations, and supporting entities and political structures and military structures that seem at least willing to go some of the way with them to try to make a change in their own reality and improve their own circumstances. But this is as much a bottom-up movement as it is a top-down, military movement. And I think we have to see that and understand that to really grasp what's taking place.
Oof, I love when Eugene gets into like preacher mode. We need some of that. But no, this is so important what you're saying. And before I just move on to a couple of thoughts or topics to wrap up on here, I want to remind people again, because we do have like 1,900 people watching, please do hit the like button. It helps us in the algorithm. And this is such an important topic. I mean, the issue of Africa, especially, and the sort of the changes we're seeing, historic shifts we're seeing across this continent right now, is of huge geopolitical importance. And the more people who hear this analysis as opposed to the propaganda coming out of CNN, the better. So please do hit the like button. Do make sure you subscribe to Breakthrough News. Eugene, what you're saying is a part of that historic shift. And you mentioned something earlier that I want to hit on because I'd like you to elaborate a bit on it. And that's the issue of multipolarity. Basically, is, you didn't use that word, but that's essentially what you were talking about when you talk about the importance of the relationship with Russia. There's also the importance of the relationship with China. I'm not quite sure how China has factored in terms of the changes in Niger. I mean, I don't think China's really taken a side, or said much other than they want stability. But the fact of the matter is that a lot of these states do have more room to do these kinds of things, to say these kinds of things, because there are more poles of power than just one. It's not just the US anymore. And I'm curious if you think that we're going to see more things like this taking place, not just in West Africa, but perhaps in other parts of Africa. I mean, we saw the Africa-Russia summit take place not that long ago. We have a BRICS summit coming up. I mean, this all is the kind of thing that the US sort of foreign policy class has been warning about, would weaken the US and would weaken US interests. And also just watching, Victoria Nuland rushing over to Niger and not being able to get a meeting with the new leadership, not being able to get a meeting with the old leadership. And really the US looking incredibly frustrated and honestly, quite weak in this situation. Not that I want to see the US invade, but I would imagine that not too long ago, had something like this happen, the U.S. would have been able to put a stop to it much more quickly than it has in this case. So I'm just curious, what your thoughts are on the role that multipolarity is playing in the shift that we're seeing right now.
Yeah, I think it's a great question, and I think it's playing a few different roles. And I think really the ultimate sort of underlying reality is that can Africa or elements in Africa start to become their own poles? And I think that's a lot of what's taking place, vis-a-vis the changes that people want to see. I think you're 100% correct, is that the rise of China in particular has opened up a huge amount of space for the African continent in terms of just having more people to work with. I mean, China and Europe kind of outstripped the rest of the world by far in terms of trade and relationships with Africa. And it was Europe was playing the key role prior to China's emergence. I mean, the US economically plays a lesser role than either of those two. Politically plays a bigger role, and from an aid perspective plays a very big role, which has its own politics attached to it. But now you had this new player of China that came in, but it's now expanding beyond that. I mean, you've got the Gulf Cooperation Council countries, which are all, of course, very rich and are continuing to play a larger role in Africa, especially UAE, but also others. Turkey, of course, is starting to play a larger role. Brazil is looking to play a more significant role in Africa. President Lula is going to be traveling several countries in Africa in conjunction with his trip to the BRICS summit later this year in South Africa. You actually saw, just to speak to the Latin American angle, the vice president.
Okay, thank you for that. So I just wanted to kind of break down the fact that and get an understanding of why this is probably a long time coming, and the frustration of the people.
Maybe you've heard about people trading stuff. Well, I trade clicks, and by trading clicks, I've been able.
So when you use YouTube, the adverts do what they want. Let me just say.
All right, you're right now.
Yeah. I'm gonna give you. Go carry on.
Okay, so I'm gonna go back to my slide now. Yeah. And so the areas that this has happening is a region that they keep referring to, which is the Sahel. So if you look onto the map, the Sahel is all of these regions that are highlighted in the beigey kind of color. And what really stuck out about to me is just how they're situated. So from Mauritania all the way to Sudan, actually to Eritrea, look at the stronghold that it's got. So not only are you literally stripped the Sahel, which is derived by an Arabic, it's an Arabic kind of name. The Sahel literally goes right across it, but not only does it go right across the continent, look at the countries that it's landlocked in. So it's basically landlocked in with all of the northern countries. You've got Egypt landlocked with Sudan. Liberia, you've got Chad and Niger. They share a border. Algeria shares a border with Mali, Mauritania, Niger. And if you look at the west, if we just cut it off in the west, they all share all of the other countries around there. So the ones at the bottom, I don't know if you can see my my mouse at all, but if you just look where it says Guinea or where it is next to Nigeria, that would have been like areas like Ghana and things like that. But again, you can see that they're all very close together. I just want to remind us that these countries are very locked in. There's a lot of ethnic groups that, for example, that are in Nigeria, that are in Niger, that are in Mali, that are in Mauritania. These are like practically like cousins. So I just wanted to kind of have a visual on that, because when you hear about the Sahel and things like that, it's, for me personally, it's just hard to get a grasp. But seeing it like this, you can really see why the Sahel would be and especially the countries that are in there as well. You've got Sudan, Chad, Nigeria, Mali. These countries, they're rich with so many minerals. You can see why these countries are countries where the powers that be in the West are fighting so hard to control them. I don't know if anyone wanted to say anything on top of that. Don't know if anyone's in the chats. Okay. Yeah, so Sister Hansa said visuals are very important. I agree. I think looking at that, for me, it really stood out to me. Brother Cal, if you want to say anything about this or the Sahel, feel free to unmute. So basically, there's countries in the Sahel that are now doing a quote unquote coup, or some say a revolution. So I just wanted to know what countries they were in the Sahel and who are their leaders. So these are the leaders currently that are in the countries that are doing a revolution, I would say. I wanted to get some strong pictures like they do on the media, the Western media, and just show the brothers up there. Right. So what I'm going to do, if that's cool with everyone, is just go through them each quickly, just so we have an understanding. So we've got Burkina Faso, which is Ibrahim Touré, and he's aged 34, and he's currently the youngest serving president in the world. we can do a bit more Ibrahim Toure, because he's one of the people that I was mentioning before that really does stand out to me. As you can see, he's got the beret, and he definitely is in the spirit of Thomas Sankara, obviously one of their great leaders. And he was born in, I think, 88. And I think Thomas Sankara was assassinated a year before. So if you believe in spirits and things like that, you know, it's interesting. But this is the person you might see flashed along on the Western papers and the news a lot, because he is one of the most outspoken ones that I've kind of looked into, that notice out of all of the ones that I've looked into, or we could say the ones that they're bringing more of a light to. On the last video that we heard, we just heard about the Russian and African summit, and he would, go, feel free to Google that, family. You can get that on YouTube, and it's very interesting seeing his stance, where they're seating, who they're seating next to, because this was not only just some African countries, it was a lot of the African countries there, with obviously Putin. And just looking at that, those dynamics were very interesting. And the things that he was saying, as he was literally cold staring some of the other African leaders, was fascinating. So I definitely would look into that. But he's definitely a revolutionist. He screams Pan-Africanism all day, and he's definitely about that life. He's definitely going in, and so that's the leader. So that's Ibrahim Toure from Burkina Faso. So Burkina Faso is one of the countries within the Sahel that is doing a revolution.
Nice.
The second one we've got is Mali. This is Colonel Assimi Goita. I'm sorry if I'm murdering the dialogue family. Yeah, I mean, I'm not there yet, but I'll get there. He's a Malian military officer who has been interim president of Mali since the 28th of May 2021, which is important. And he's 42 as well, so quite fairly young as well. And that's to go to show that Mali has, this is not, what's going on recently with the Sahel, it's not a recent thing. This has been building up. It's only coming to light now, I guess, because we're on the fourth or fifth person country, and I guess that these countries are waking up and getting worried. But yeah, so we can see here this, you know, this good brother here, and he's been in control since 2021, so that's about, what, 2 years ago. I've got some more information on this person. Sorry, family, just bear with me and I'll get that information up for you.
So far, so good. Family, we listened to a presentation from Sister Kush. Any questions you want?
Big up, son, Sister Kushti. And you're definitely right, beloved, in regards to that whole region. Because when we're dealing with the Mandinka, who, you know, the ancient Egyptians, Nubians, they were Mandinka people. And obviously, they made the migration to the Niger, the Congo, and obviously the Upper Nile, back and forth. So these countries that you mentioned, is I can see the connection. And then when we're dealing with Sudan, which I'm sure you're gonna go into as well, is Pan-Africanism hit there as well, as you know. So it's a very powerful unity if this works out, and of course we have to support it, because it just needs a little bit of a push, and then everyone can just do what they're doing. But yeah, man, I can see why the threats, you know, because these were the remember, West Africa was classed as Western Nubia, political military science. So the ice people, they understand that we have to try and stop these descendants of the ancient Sun people. So I'm following through, beloved man. It's a good presentation.
Thank you, brother. I'm just sharing something. I've just asked for something else to be shared.
Hold
Have
on,
you got that, bro?
Let me just check. 17 seconds.
It's from the Commons Library, .parliament.uk. For the family who heard that address, don't panic. But I think it's important to hear from all sides as well and see what the West is saying, the UK is saying. Is it up?
Is it this one here?
Yeah, it should. It should just have writing. It should say now, Mali, why have elections been delayed?
Yeah, until 2024.
Yeah, brilliant. So we was on Mali and was on the president Assimi Goita. So it says here was sworn in as interim president. Goita led the coup that removed elected president Ibrahim Boubacar Keita in August 2020. He became vice president in a civil-led administration before leading a second coup in May 2021 and taking himself in power. So that's what's happened since 2020 to 2021 when he decided to put himself in power, and he's still there at the moment now. And then I wanted to scroll down a bit as well because I found this information very interesting. So it says, despite continuous pressure from ECOWAS, the Economic Community of West African States, to stick to the declared election schedule, in late 2021, the transitional authorities, now led by Goita, indicated it would not meet the February 2021 deadlines. Goita initially proposed 2026 for elections before revisiting it to 2025 after pressure from ECOWAS. After holding an extraordinary summit on Mali in January 2022, ECOWAS said the proposed calendar was totally unacceptable. Look at these dates. So 2022, so it's only last year. So this has been going for a while. This is from ECOWAS. This calendar simply means that an illegitimate military transition government will take the Malian people hostage for the next 5 years. ECOWAS upholded sanctions imposed after the coup. It also added new economic and financial sanctions. Closed land and air borders with Mali are suspended. Most commercial and financial transactions. So the reason why I wanted to get to this, because there was a lot in that one point, especially at this point here. So the fact that ECOWAS, when he became into power in 2022, and he said, who's he? Kush. Sorry, family. I'm getting his name, Goita. So Goita said that, look, I will do an election and do a civil election in 2026. They said that's too long. We can't have you sitting in government. You've not been elected, and now you're just taking over the people for 5 years. And the reason why I wanted to read on as well was about the sanctions. We were talking about sanctions last week, and I was saying how this is really important as well, because sanctions, and where they were saying that how they're doing closed land and air borders with Mali are suspended, commercial and financial transactions as well. And this is what we was talking about before. So when we saw in a map of Sahel, if you're locked in between different countries that are now saying that we're supporting the West, we're not going to let you get food in, we're not going to bring food out, we're not going to carry on with our local business with you, you are really starving out that country. And remember, these are your fellow people on the continent doing this. This is what ECOWAS does. I have got a bit coming up about ECOWAS, but for now, let's just picture ECOWAS as a group of like an EU, but of the West. So it's a bunch of countries in Africa, of the west of Africa, and they've called themselves ECOWAS. And now they are now saying this to them. So I hope that was a bit clear. So that was at the time. Since that time, when ECOWAS and them were going through negotiation, they thankfully resolved the issue. Let me see here. Okay, the Malian authorities then announced in June, ahead of another ECOWAS summit, to revise the election timetable for the transition to end in 2024. So the Malian GOSI has said, okay, fine. What I'll do then is in next year, which is 2024, I will give the election out to the people. And this is what I was saying before, that I think Ibrahim Toure from Burkina Faso said the same thing. And the reason why I keep mentioning it and why that is something that makes me happy is because we know about these people who come into the leadership of these countries, and then they become dictators, and they don't want to, and then they don't want to go, and they're there for like years upon years, like another country that I'm going to mention that's done a coup for that exact reason. So the fact that they've even said that, okay, number one, we've taken these people over. Number two, we don't want you. We don't want your aid. And number three, guess what? We are going to give it up to the people. We've got, and I think I saw somewhere where people were saying, oh, why does he want 5 years? This looks like another dictator. But if you think about it, Thomas Sankara changed his whole country in 4 years. This is a country that we've just seen the breakdown of how it's been ripped to shred by France. They have got one of the wealthiest per capita in Africa, but these countries are some of the most poorest countries in Africa. So you're not even starting at bottom, you're starting at below bottom. Look how long it just took these lot to do a referendum to do Brexit. How long do you think it's going to do to fix a country? Right? So you've got to give them some time. But how much time is enough time? So the fact that this Malian leader Gozi said, okay, by next year, which is 2024, because he's been in since 2022, I'm going to give it over to the people. I think that gives me a bit of hope. That gives me a sense of democracy. That gives me a sense of wanting to do things the right way within its own culture. So that's why I wanted to kind of stick on that, because obviously if we hear the West, they're just talking like these people are just a bunch of animals that have just shot up the place and just declared themselves leaders. But they actually, if you look into these, a lot of these leaders actually have a lot of structures, constitutions set up. They really wanted to change the game. Remember, again, Thomas Sankara did it in 4 years. So when you look up on some of these leaders and what they're proposing, what they're going to do within their own country, it's really good to see. So that's why I just wanted to bring that part up there. So thank you for your time on that one, family. And I think there's another part here that I wanted to show here about the Mali president. At least this one, Reuters, at least they're calling him a president and not a coup leader. It signs a new mining code in bid to raise government stake. So I'm not going to go over this too long, but feel free to look into this one as well. But okay. Mali's interim president, Assimi Goïta, has signed into law a new mining code which will allow the military-led government, again, Western, to increase its ownership of gold concessions and recoup what it says is a major shortfall in productions of revenues. And this is what I was saying about these leaders are not just going in with guns like how they like to perceive us, on top of some sort of militant van, shooting up the place and just being barbarians. They actually are going in and doing some real changes that really will affect the country. Now, hopefully it does go down to the country. We can't say if it will or will not. We don't know if these people are going to do what they say, but so far, so good to me. So here we go. The new code, signed on state television late on Monday, will allow the state and local investors to take stakes as high as 35% in mining projects compared to 20% now. Some would say 35% is still quite shy, considering it's your country, it's your land. But I guess it's a lot better than the 20% that it had. So 35% in mining projects compared to 20% now, and could more than double the sector's contribution to gross domestic product to around 20%, the government has said. And I just wanted to leave here to get to some figures. So it's not immediately clear if the code will affect existing projects. A mining ministry official said last week that this would depend on the implementing degree. which have not yet been made available. Mali is one of Africa's top gold producers and is home to mining companies including Barrick Gold, ABX.TO, B2 Gold, BTO.TO. I mean, look at these names. Result in Mining, RSGAX, and Hummingbird Resources. Like, I think that these words here that are prefixed could even mean that they're even on the trading. So they're probably doing really good as a business. Mali's finance minister, I'm not even going to try, said on Monday evening that an audit of the mining sector had shown that the state was missing 300 billion to 600 billion francs, which it intends to recover. So I just wanted to do that to show that, you know, it's not just this coup and these Africans have lost their minds in the heat and they're just doing these barbarianisms. They're actually doing things that could really benefit their country and their people. Okay, I don't know. I've not been looking at any of the comments. I don't know if anyone's saying anything or if I should just keep going.
I mean, they've been supportive, and they've just been wondering. They just wonder what the next country they think might happen, really. But well done so far, sis.
Okay,
Very
thank
good.
you, family.
The Mali's screenshot is on the main screen at the moment, by the way.
The president.
Yeah, the Mali president.
Okay, brilliant. I think I've got one more thing to read to the family.
Mm-hmm.
And then we can move on to the next country.
Right.
I'm just trying to do it. So okay, there we go. Right, so it's just this little part here that I thought was an interesting fact as well. Again, this is BBC family, so take the word in with a pinch of salt. Okay, so again, look how it started, the military government. The military government in Mali has adopted a new constitution that enhances the power of the president and armed forces. It also creates a Senate and demotes French from an official to a working language. So that really stood out to me again. So this is what I'm saying about how, again, these are the kind of things that we're saying that we want to see. How many times have we said that we want to stop foreign languages, especially when we saw the Sahel? Remember, not all of those countries that were linked together actually all speak the same language. Some of them speak, well, of course, they all speak their own local language, but the colonizer languages differ. Some of them's like Nigeria was right next to another country that speaks French. So imagine on the border. So again, this is good. This is great to see that they're saying, yeah, we're not speaking French. French is not going to be our official language in the continent. About time. Okay, so let me see if there was other part here. Creates fear that the changes make it easier. The new constitution means. Oh yes, I'm not gonna. The reason why, feel free to look on this yourselves, family. This is BBC News World Africa, but I had read this obviously previous, and it's a load of for me propaganda. It's just basically worded in a way that you can tell what side they're on. I'm not gonna bother you good people with that rubbish.
They can't see your screen.
Can they not? Okay. All right, I'll just read this part here. Since then, data suggests Mali's military government has made little progress in its fight back. Again, this is a matter of opinions against Islamists who controlled that part of the country. But this is what was important. This is literally, I know you can't see the screen, but this is literally the last paragraph at the end, family. This is the BBC, so it's interesting to see them say this or admit this. But they said, but the government says the new constitution will stop the spread of 11 years jihadist insurgency. Mali recently decided to kick out all 12,000 UN peacekeepers in the country and is thought to employ 1,000 Russian mercenaries from the Wagner Group for security backup. So it was just basically saying that, you know, even with all of this going on, they could see, without having to read the whole thing, that they've recognized that the country wanted these people in power. And although that they don't see it as the right thing, they have to acknowledge that the people are going out in their drones, in their thousands, supporting these leaders. So I just wanted to say that. I also like the fact that, you know, they've kicked out French as a language, also kicking out the 12,000 UN peacekeepers. So that's very interesting. Obviously, the Russian aspect is very interesting as well, but I just don't think we have time to go into that. So, let me just go on to the next tab. Has it moved on to the next one for you?
We can still see Marley. Do you want me to press
Okay,
next?
bear with me. I'm on the wrong one. 1 sec.
Okay.
Okay, let's move on to the next slide.
There you go.
Okay. Yeah, so I just hope the family are okay right now and what they're seeing. They don't have to adjust the color or the contents of their screen. What they're seeing is really what they're seeing. This is the leader of Guinea. Again, Mamadi Doumbouya, who was sworn in as president following the military coup in September 2022. And he's actually aged 43. So when you've heard about the countries, Guinea is one of the countries listed, but you don't really get to see much of him. But when I did look into him, I will say that this picture popped up straight away. It's not hard to see. It's like they want to shove this in your face. Obviously, she's married to not a sister. And this is when I say that not every single country might be what we want it to be. So although, yes, in 2022, there was a coup and he was elected, and I think not only that reason, the reason why he also has shown support for the other countries who are doing this, they're also against, he says that he's against French intervention into the countries, yet his wife right here, who he's sporting hand in hand in local attire, is actually an ex-French officer. So I don't know about this one, family. You know, he is, when it comes to when they're all sitting around the table, he seems to be voting the right way for them. But I mean, this to me, and this is my personal opinion, screams plant all over, because look at his wife, and then it's not only just because of his wife. Look at what her position was in when she was in France. She was an officer. So I don't know, Brother Cal, Brother Raven, anything to say on this one?
Yeah.
Did you say no?
Well, it's definitely no good. And we're going to cover a show on Pan Africans, so-called Pan Africans in history who didn't marry a black woman, because there's quite a number. And some people have kind of like what's the word where you have dual mindsets, cognitive dissonance. Yeah, where you know they can try to separate from France and do everything that's pro-African and so forth, but they don't include their household in that concept.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So
this is we love, you know, Guinea, you know, but this image is very it's definitely West Craveny. You know what I mean, Sister Bush dear? That it's problematic, man. You know what I mean? You've got the sun people, and there's an ice woman there whose people are trying to invade Africa. This is problematic, man.
Absolutely. And that's the thing. It's not just that she's a white woman. She's literally a French woman who was a police officer. I mean, I don't know. Okay, so there was actually something, it's called World Crunch, where I had some more information about her, because what's even more interesting, family, about this is that it's very hard to get information about her. Even when I was looking at other press releases and stories about them, they said that he's quite hard to get information about, and she's quite hard to get information about. Whereas when I've gotten all the information from the other leaders, I can tell you they've got information about their military experience, when they joined the military, what branch of the African military they were, where they studied, if they studied abroad, who they're married to. That is simple to find. There is so much propaganda, obviously, about these leaders, which is just damning about them. But this one right here, if you try to find out any more information, apart from the fact that people say that she was a friendly, vibrant person, she's very driven, she worked her way, she's not just a police officer, she was actually in a special armed forces of police officers, and that's all the information we get to know about her. Again, if we look back on our history, it screams agent all throughout it. Why is there no information available about her or even him? So I don't want to put down this brother, because I'm going to still wait and see. But also, I mean, the greats have already told us to look back. We're supposed to do Sankova, and this, if we look back and look at this, I don't know, it doesn't look exactly, it's clearly not in sync. So yeah, these are obvious agents of progress. Exactly. It's such a shame I can't get it. And the thing is, which is making me even more about this, is because I've obviously saved this link, and this link was fine a few hours ago, and when I've clicked on it now, it's telling me to pay for this information. So again, and this was the only one that I could get to, and it was called worldcrunch.com. So yeah, that's, again, you know, we're not silly out here. I'll leave it for the family to put 2 and 2 together on that one, unfortunately. I'm going to see if I could get the second link on them going, or if I'm going to get rejected for that. But yeah. It's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
Especially the lack of information.
Yeah.
Of her.
Yeah, I guess at this point you're just looking at decisions made, really.
Yeah, exactly. We'll just leave it there. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So I was just going to read it. The second one was not about the wife. It was more about Guinea and what they are, how they stand. So in a dynamic compromise, the experts of ECOWAS and Guinea have jointly developed a considerated plan of a transition spread over 24 months, said the document transmitted on Friday. So again, I just wanted to have these information to, again, this is another country who has pledged that within 2 years they will swap over. So again, some of the stuff that he's saying on here do sound good on paper, but what I'm looking at has made me maybe side-eye Guinea a bit. Yes, I'll just probably leave it on that one for that one. Let me go to my next slide. And then we've got Nigeria. Nigeria is probably the one that we've most heard about. It's probably the most recent. Obviously, we just had Gabon recently, but Nigeria is the one where the president just will not let go of. The French president Macron has had several. I could give you videos and videos, but you could just type Macron and how he feels and how he was so determined not to leave Nigeria or lose Nigeria. Whether or not that's because maybe the last 3 countries prior, you know, we've had Mali, we've had Burkina Faso, you had Guinea. So at that point, Nigeria would have been 4th. But when we compare to how people are commenting on Gabon to Nigeria, there's a stark difference. I don't really hear as much about Gabon, even though Gabon was now, no more than maybe 2 weeks ago. Was it even that's probably a week ago? But we're still hearing about Nigeria. So this is the leader. Abraham I tried Tishini, and he's probably the oldest one, age 62 to 63. This is, sorry, I don't have an exact age again, family. It's actually fascinating. So I was saying what I was saying in regards to finding information about the wife. If you try to find information about this person, they're so disrespectful. Obviously, you can tell that, some of the information I've given you, you can see where some of them are saying coups, some of them are saying that they're presidents. It goes back and forth. If you look here, they don't even have his picture on WikiLeaks or nothing like that. They can't even give us an exact age. They're not really claiming him, so you might even still see the previous president up on some of them as well. So even in regards to media, because if you want to know how a country think, it's good to look at their media. And if we look to that, we can really see that they're really trying to not let go of Niger. So that's the one that they have had, that's had the most kinds of media coverage. I know that when this was the time when I really started paying focus to them, at the time when ECOWAS gave them, was it a 7-day notice period to leave the country, and if they wouldn't, then ECOWAS would then go into the country, and it would probably have been some form of in-house war. That's when I started to really pay attention, because I thought, what is ECOWAS doing? Number one, it's not their business. And why so much pressure on this little country, Nigeria? So it's very fascinating. Again, if we remember some of the videos that I played right at the beginning, the gentleman was alluding to all of the rich minerals and things that are in Nigeria. Also, we know we've heard the quote that 2/3 of the French citizens literally get their electricity from Nigeria, whereas in practically 2%, 5% of Nigeria get any form of electricity. The wealth that they extract from them is like eye-watering numbers. We're talking about billions, where they get nothing. So when it comes to Nigeria, I think it's very close knitted to France in regards to France having a first world functioning kind of lifestyle, if that makes any sense. Does anyone want to add anything on there? Because I know I've been going a little while. I don't want to send anyone, I just want to make sure everyone's still there, or anyone wants to add anything on the leaders, because that's all of the leaders or all of the countries that are within the Sahel who are currently doing a quote coup or revolution.
Well, well done, sis. Just so you know, Sister Sang Kofa has joined us. We're 11:30 at the moment. Where we can go longer, if you're, depending on how much you need, because we will give opportunity for others to give their comments. Also, we're going to cover one of the other topics as well. But take as long as you need. But Sister Sang Kofa's here, just so you know as well.
Bless up, Sis Sankova. Feel free to unmute anytime.
Yeah, sorry. I'm multitasking right now. But no, big up the panel and everyone. And definitely rise up yourself, Empress Kushti, for this wonderful presentation. It was good. It was good and informative. I'm not going to lie. I'm not one to... I'm going to eavesdrop on different conversations and this and that and build up a case, I live with a political scientist, so I just listen at the background, but you don't always take in details with things certain times. And I didn't know Burkina Faso, he was that young, and the youngest in the world. There's just lots of things that you highlighted. Like I said, the visuals are very important in terms of the connections of the countries and all those type of things. So, yeah, man, it's been very informative so far, and I'm very thankful for just this little breakdown. Because sometimes, a certain amount of details can go over people's heads. So, yeah, I really appreciate this. And I think it's important that we have this conversation so we understand ourselves as a global family.
Right, I give thanks for that, sis. I really appreciate that. Especially as when you said that, because where I was, I'm near the end anyways, family, of my slide, so I might as well just finish it off. So I wanted to try and focus on ECOWAS, because we'll hear at ECOWAS a lot, especially from the West. And so let's get the actual definition of ECOWAS. So this is the emblem there. This is the emblem of ECOWAS. And it stands for the Economic Community of West African State, also known as CEDEAO in French or Portuguese. It's a regional political and economic union of 15 countries located in West Africa. Okay, so again, so it's 15 countries in West Africa, a group, and they call themselves ECOWAS. So let's look at this, how it really looks on the continent. So I hope this is okay, family. I did put that writing on top, so I hope it doesn't blare in out anything. I hope everyone can see it. Can let me know in the chats if it's all good for everyone. But I'll just give a breakdown of what it is. So all of these countries, both grey and red, are all countries within ECOWAS. These are all the countries that are within ECOWAS. But the ones that are in red are the current ones doing the revolution. So remember when we saw the Sahel, right? So Sahel started up the top there from Mauritania, and it went right across from Mali, Niger, Chad, right? And it went across, and they were all locked in, landlocked. And then we knew that they had the difference of language, right? And then now you've got ECOWAS, who were initially a group formed of West African countries, so some sort of union, alliance, a group, a stronghold. But yet the countries that are actually doing the revolution are within ECOWAS. So when they're talking about ECOWAS, what are we doing here? So, okay, so, let me go back and read this part here just in case people can't see it. What are the 8 French-speaking countries of ECOWAS created in 1975 by the Treaty of Lagos? 15 countries. The French-speaking ones are Benin, Burkina Faso, Côte d'Ivoire, Guinea, Mali, Niger, Senegal, Togo. Now you got the English-speaking countries: Gambia, Ghana, Liberia, Nigeria, Sierra Leone, and the Portuguese-speaking Cape Verde and Guinea-Bissau. Sorry if I murdered that family. So I just wanted to bring that into context, because I agree, visuals, when you see it as a visual, you really see these greedy little hands of the West and how they just want to continually divide and conquer. So I just wanted to land on that, there's much more to go on from this, but I just wanted to give a brief, because we're doing just the fundamentals and just looking at the beginning of it. I just wanted people to see what ECOWAS is. So when we're looking at the grey parts now, the grey parts are the people, the countries of ECOWAS that are not in agreement of what's going on with the Q, going on currently with the revolution. But I will say that Nigeria, when I've looked into the ECOWAS, Nigeria is about 25% of ECOWAS in regards to the military that they can bring, the finances. As you can see there, this treaty was created in 1975 in Lagos. So their actual base of ECOWAS is in Nigeria. So that's why more times when they're talking about ECOWAS, you'd more see someone from Nigeria speaking on behalf. I think their president of ECOWAS is what's his name? What's that? Tinubu. I think he's like one of the leading speakers, who is the president of Nigeria. So basically, you've got ECOWAS, but Nigeria is kind of leading ECOWAS. Nigeria is kind of the big dog in ECOWAS because of what it brings to the table, and just the sheer volume of soldiers and the wealth, I think. But they are literally just the ones who have the say so. So that's why when we saw recently, when ECOWAS actually decided, when all of these countries were doing their revolution, when Niger started to do their revolution, Nigeria started doing their revolution, we saw that all of a sudden ECOWAS were getting involved. Obviously, the French were screaming like he normally does, and he was very upset and very frustrated and getting red. But why is ECOWAS getting involved? That's a big question that we need to ask ourselves. And whose interest is it? Because if you're seeing on the map here, they're even one group, but they're practically neighbors. What will happen if they descend in war? We don't need to see what's happening. We don't need the same kinds of rubbish that we're seeing happening in the West right now in regards to Ukraine and their war within each other, right? We don't need that happening on our land. And so when ECOWAS threatened to go into Nigeria, if they did not, if the president didn't step down, thank God, Niger held to their strength and decided that they didn't care. You could set, if it was Friday, for example, at 10 o'clock, the curfew came and went, and Niger stood their ground. ECOWAS did try to go in, but many countries, and I will say, including Algeria, stepped in and said that, look, we don't want this, because you got to remember that no one actually wants war. So though we want a revolution, we do not want an actual war on our land, on our continent. And even when it looked just like the leader of Nigeria wanted to go through, what was heartwarming to see is that the Nigerians themselves shut it down. So when he was trying to bring it through their kind of parliamentary system, it got shut down. And I'm just going to, the reason why that's important, because it shows that, again, these are not just baffled barbarians not knowing what they're doing. They understand what that impact would be. Algeria has really got nothing to do with this, but Algeria had to step in and say, don't you dare go in and start this, right? You don't need to do this with your brothers. There's other ways. So I just wanted to put that out there, because we hear about ECOWAS, we hear about these coups, we hear about this country and that country, and it could get a bit confusing. And because there's so much moving parts, we've not even started on Russia. Maybe we could do that next week. But if we know the fundamentals, now when we start hearing things, we can identify, okay, who's saying it and why is it of value to them to say it that way? And then stuff starts making sense.
Okay.
So that's it. This is my last one. So this is Gabon. I've not done much on him as yet, because again, Gabon, this leader, he's seeming a bit So Sister Kush wants to do a bit more investigation, but I just wanted to put it out there because I know that things have moved forward. So I don't want no one to think that we haven't covered that, because Gabon has been very recent. This is the gentleman, 48 years old. I'm sorry I don't have the name on there as yet, but I'm going to do my own more research and then come back with that probably next week on that. So I'll probably just leave it on ECOWAS and that image there. Just if anyone wants to add to it or say anything on it, I've done my part on this for this week. I hope it wasn't too long. It's my first one. I really appreciate everyone just sticking by me and listening in and being supportive.
Thank you, sis. Everyone give a round of applause in the comment section if you know how to do the emoji. Well done. There you go. Any comments from the speakers at the moment?
I just wanted to say though, I was gonna say, Burna Boy did tell us about Nigeria and how it came into being. If you're a Burna Boy fan, you'll know. What's the song called? I can't remember the song. He's riding on a horse. But in a more detailed way, Netflix has got a documentary called I have to find the title, but I'm sure it's called How to Build a Colony or something. But it's breaking down Britain's involvement in the creating of Nigeria as we know it, and even after the enslavement, kidnapping of Africans from Nigeria, and how a role, because we don't really talk about Nigeria and enslavement. We have a level of understanding of Ghana and Sierra Leone in certain countries, but there's not a detailed explanation. So yeah, Netflix has got a good documentary. I haven't finished it yet, but it was quite informative still. So yeah, big up yourself.
There you go. I just had to mute you, brother King Cal. I think you had feedback on your mic. And welcome, brother Shakara, to the team. Welcome.
Peace, King. How you doing?
Good. Black Bearman, brother.
certainly. How you doing, Kushi?
What's up, bro? How did I do?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to pull up here and come again to hear the rest of the fullness of it. I came in when you were talking about the last part just before ECOWAS. When you were talking about Niger or Niger. So yeah, but like it from what I heard, it sounded good and a good introduction to a lot of the dynamics that are taking place. You know what I'm saying? I've heard a lot of what's the word? As in, like, if we're going to assess exactly what's going on, there's a lot of conflicting kind of viewpoints out there, depending on a lot of different information. But a lot of people don't have a basic understanding, and I think that's what you provided. Before we can make an assessment of the politics properly, we just have to have a basic understanding of the dynamics, and I think that's what you provided here today. So I look forward to listening to it proper and taking it in. And yeah, man, much appreciated. I might have to come invite you to do some kush still. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Oh, no disrespect. What's it called? Raven. You know what I mean? I'm just. I don't know.
No, definitely. Good job.
You get me? Yeah, man. Because I say that because I'm actually telling the panel. You know what I'm saying? But I feel like on this particular topic, but I feel like for this month, I feel like this would be a good introduction to that panel, if that makes sense, for people to get a basic, you know what I'm saying? Overview of what's actually taking place, because like you said, there's a lot of information, a lot of moving parts, and it's difficult to get a grasp. And what I appreciate most about what you said at the end is that you're gonna, like you said, with Gabon, you got to do more research, right? Yeah. But that's what it is, because I'm the same. I've had certain thoughts on it, and then I've spoken to people, and they kind of not shifted, but maybe I have to think about it differently, because like you said, there's a lot of moving parts. So we've got to be very, very, very vigilant, you know what I'm saying, in terms of how we assess things, and how they're going on. So well done, sis. Well done.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I think that's exactly what I said at the beginning as well, that I wanted to start with some basics, because there is a lot of moving parts. I think that's all again programmed, and it was made to be so, just to confuse us and divide us. And then I think that's why having visuals, it just really does jump out at you as well. And also, the way where I had to get my information, I literally had to go well away from the West. It was unbelievable. And
100.
Yeah, but the great thing is that if you've got places like India, West is not just liked by only by us. So there's loads of other news outlets that are happily willing to give the details that the West will leave out. So
100.
Yeah, so that was definitely a good eye opener to the family. So definitely
yeah, man. Well, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna send you a video that a friend of mine did. He's very skeptical of Wagwan, but I feel like it would be informative for you in terms of your further research. And he's got pointers in terms of that can guide in terms of further research. So yeah, I'm gonna send you that so you can conduct, because like I said, I'm still researching it myself. And I ain't put together no presentation on it yet, so well done.
Thank you. Let me ask you a quick question. So I just wanted to ask Brother Shaka, are you pessimistic or are you optimistic?
I am cautious. Let's put it that way. I would say I'm either optimistic or pessimistic. I'm cautious, and I think at one point I was cautiously optimistic. So maybe I've regressed slightly, but mostly because all right, what happened was, obviously things happen. Like the Mali thing happened like over a year ago at this point. Yeah. But like when you've been studying these things for a significant period of time, like there's a certain level of natural caution that comes up whenever because like people always come and like, especially when the military takes over. Yeah. Military coups have a very, very bad reputation. Yeah. In Africa, in particular. All right. So those things are skeptical to me. One of the things that in Mali though that seemed to be that kind of led to my optimism was the fact that the masses of the people seem to be very much behind the military takeover. Yeah. And so I was cautiously watching that, and then obviously Burkina Faso and Guinea and Niger took off. Now Guinea to me is a bit of a different one because like the brother who's in charge there, he like you said, the guy who's taken over in Gabon, he seems a bit. I felt like that about the guy in Guinea. Yeah, that's how I felt about him. Yeah, but my brethren Sekou did a breakdown about a month ago on the situation. He's very skeptical, and so I spoke to I saw his presentation. I had a long conversation with my dad. And my dad was basically in line with what Sekou was saying. Yeah. At the same time, they're basically saying, look, although we've got these questions and that questions or whatever, we're going to wait to see what I've won. Certain things are obvious, yeah. So certain things that we like is just principle. So, for example, when it comes to the fact that Nigeria and ECOWAS said that they're going to invade, and the fact that the other nations said if you invade, then we are going to stand with Niger. That's a good thing. Yeah, that's a good thing. Yeah, when Niger said they have a lack of uranium, that's a good thing, right? You know what I'm saying? So there are some good signs, but then there are some other questions. For example, all of them were trained by America and French military. Yeah, and so there was no sign of any kind of like revolutionary radical politics before this point. In fact, some of them, like in one instance, I can't remember which instance this was, but my dad was saying that the Presidential Guard, which is designed, which is basically a body that is put together in order to protect the president from coups.
Yeah.
Suddenly, the Presidential Guard and the army. The Presidential Guard is there to protect the president from coups against the army, if that makes sense. Yes, so they're there as a protection from the army, yeah, in case of a coup. And in one case, like the Presidential Guard, just immediately the Presidential Guard and the army are basically on the same accord and in line with each other, and that's a bit strange, right? For that kind of dynamic to take place. So it's not that let's say I've got more questions than answers at this point. There are some good signs, but there are some things that we also need to be cautious of at the same time. And so I'm choosing to just be cautious.
Yeah, I think I'm where you was. I'm cautiously optimistic, but I'm very heavily on the cautious because, like you said, some of the countries. When you was talking there, it reminds me of maybe Gabon, right? When he had a good relationship. He has a good relationship with France. Had a good relationship with the person that he ousted, father. They've been in
right.
Yeah, so someone's there. Very tricky. That's why I say I've got to hold Gabon and watch it out. But then you've got someone like Ibrahim Toure in Burkina Faso, and he hasn't necessarily done so much to make me question him. So see, do we give them the grace to look? That's why I wanted to break them down as individuals, and see
100
countries and the leaders, and do we give them individuals, or are we just kind of gonna brush them off with well, you're all military, you all kind of grew up that way, but we kind of know that was the structure of the land for years
of the land.
So I and this is why I guess you say that you're cautious, right? Because you understand both sides.
Right.
And that's why clarity is so important. And I think that even when you look at the youth in Africa, the youth, they're very aware. Well, most of them are very aware of what's happening in their country in regards to their leaders and who they're not dealing with and stuff like that. I mean, even
100.
SARS, that was made by the youth in Nigeria, whereas over here they take
Yeah.
advantage that you're not really educated in politics, and then on top of that, they give weird skewed to their kind of ways of thinking. So it's very
100.
difficult over here for us to make a real good assessment. And then what makes it even harder on top is that most of these revolutionaries, they're all speaking French. Everything is
Yeah,
in
yeah,
French.
yeah, yeah.
So that
And
even makes it even more hard to keep
you know me, and you know me already, and when it comes to the French thing and the need to cross that barrier, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, definitely. I feel like the what you mentioned about Gabon and the relationships there is a very, very serious one. Actually had the pleasure of interviewing a brother from Burkina Faso last month, and it seems to me, at least based upon his assessment, that Ibrahim Traore has again a lot of support. Yeah, you know, in the country. All right. And there is, I don't know how much you went into this, but one of the factors that we also need to watch is the the jihadi movements in West Africa, which is a dynamic in the thing, and that's also connected to America, by the way. And whatever we know about this now, you know, and the fact that, but one of the things that I've been questioning, the question that my dad put in my head, is the fact that America, a lot of these overthrows, America has not called them coups. Yeah. Like on the international scene, and that suggests something politically, right? Do you know what I'm saying? So it's questions like those, yeah, that you know, that man is just watchful. But like you know, when that man also wants to be optimistic. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, man also wants to, you know what I'm saying? That man also wants to, like, yeah, you know, like see something good come of this situation. So I feel like the most important thing is to connect with people on the ground as much as possible, and look at the situation as much as possible from the perspective of people on the ground. You know what I'm saying? Not exclusively, but you know what I'm saying, that's an important perspective.
Yeah.
That we're often not going to get. I'll say one last thing. You know what you were saying about where it's there, non-Western media, yeah, that are happy to parrot Western propaganda. This is a thing that I've noticed here, that a lot of them are, they can be anti-West.
You see how the ancestors did us? Is it just me?
Oh,
so they did cut him off just then.
Brother Shadrach, can you say what you're saying again? I think you were cut by someone.
Oh, sorry. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, I was saying that the West, so a lot of these media outlets, they know they can be very anti-West until Africa starts to rise. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
I've noticed that with Al Jazeera, I've noticed that with some of the Indian news as well. There's this Indian woman who, she's got some pretty hot takes. Like, you know, she breaks down some issues very, very well. I can't remember what news station she works for, but then I've seen her on some African issues, and it's like, you know, it's like, wow, where did all that analysis go? You know what I'm saying? So yeah, there we are.
100% agree. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I understand that they're just fair weather. They are not with us as our ancestor Baba Ben, is it John Henry Clark said, we have no friends.
Yes, no friends.
Exactly. But I just wanted to say, in regards to the fact that America has not outright called it a coup, and that the fact that Macron has even said that they felt that the US has abandoned them. Again, these are things that we don't necessarily, this is in-house fighting right now. They're just acting like little girls, like just titty-tattering on a public forum over Africa.
100%.
And they're losing it. They're losing their professionalism. They're losing the fact that this used to, it felt like this was some sort of like in-house. Now
100%.
All their dirty laundry is getting hunged out because he is desperate. This is the fourth country that are ousting France. Literally, 100%. We want your money out of the bank. We want you out of the land. We don't even talk your language. So I think that, to your point in regards to America, we know that France is not the only colonizer.
Yeah,
colonizer. Thank you, bro. And I think the likes of America, UK, who have been very quiet, although they're speaking through the European Union, no doubt. All of these people are watching because they've all even publicly have said that they felt that France has pushed too hard. France have taken liberties, and I think
100%.
and I think they've watched to see how far are they going to do it. And I think
Yeah.
that this was the tipping point. They wanted to see if the Africans would just allow it, and then maybe
Yeah,
if
yeah,
they
yeah.
allow it, maybe the English
Yeah.
speaking countries might allow it, maybe the
100.
Portuguese speaking countries might allow it, right? So I think a
Yeah.
lot of people are watching. So you've got the Western powers at play watching this and seeing how this pans out to see how far you really can push the African. You got the other
100.
Africans on the continent watching it, because let's be honest, Tinubu is probably the most the main reason why Tinubu doesn't want who's the president of Nigeria, and obviously
Nigeria,
the leaders of ECOWAS. The main reason why he probably doesn't want any of this is because he probably knows he's next. He knows his people don't want it there. And if this is surging through the Sahel, which we know is right across there, and it's within the ECOWAS, which is within their crew, he knows that he don't want this. So it's better to back the West. And that's why I said it's so important to understand the fundamentals, because then you would understand why a man who's neighbors with another country would even think about going to war with it. Right?
100.
So
100.
and so I think when we're talking about people watching, there is so many people. You've got the actual Africans on the ground watching each other, watching the continents, and they're speaking right now. They're all speaking for each other. It's the people of Nigeria that said we ain't going in. What are you talking about? What soldiers? They're not going.
Essential point.
We've got a problem here, and I think
essential point. Yeah,
and I think the other colonizers are watching as well. And we all know that America has heavy millions vested military bases invested in Niger. So you don't want to start rubbing them up the wrong way. So I think they're starting to realize that they've got a lot of invested in Africa. But I think what might sound bad, the saving grace might be as well, is that Ukraine's got a war on as well. So they cannot afford to pay for Ukraine and now pay through ECOWAS to start an inland war. Do you understand?
100%.
And I think Putin is sitting there and is just watching the table and watching the dynamics, and that's why he's
definitely, definitely.
Ball game. But yeah, I'd like.
Yeah.
And so this is
man.
so fascinating.
Question: Have you looked into Tinubu?
Yeah,
Okay, cool.
I try, but it's a bit close to home, so I get a bit disgusted and stop.
I understand.
I know what you're talking about. Are you talking about his history in America with his
100%,
100%? Okay.
Yeah.
That alone needs a segment as well, because
100%.
I don't understand how it can even be. So
exactly, But you know what the thing is? I think that one of the major points that are coming out of what you just said is whatever our assessment of the military and the military leadership at the moment, one thing that we know is a fact is that for close to at least a decade now, people in the French-speaking African nations have been on the uprise against France, and their stranglehold on the nations. That's a genuine thing, That's one thing that we know has been taking place consistently at the grassroots level. You know what I'm saying? And so there's some faith to be put in that, and something to be said for that. You know what I'm saying? At the very least, the people that are fed up, and France has known for a long time that their time is coming to an end, so to speak, right? And they've been doing their best to hold on to the thing, and the whole AFRICOM thing in Africa was a part of that and remains a part of that. And so we just gotta make sure that we just gotta try to make sure that the leadership is being held to account by the people. You know what I'm saying? And the people to keep us on the ground. And hopefully, if that's the case, then we could be more optimistic and less cautious as time goes by.
Absolutely, and that's why I'm happy to hear that they're saying that they'll give the vote back to the people within 2 years. Give us 2 years to prove to you what we can do, and then in 2 years you can give it to the vote. That gives me hope. So if that And again, we're not there yet. But if those
Yeah.
that happens in 2 years, that will give you more faith as well.
100, 100.
I did want to say as well, if you know of any places that are actually helping, so I was saying before, any places that are doing food banks and things like that, because obviously we know that they've got these sanctions against them. We know that at one point, like what you was mentioning before, Ibrahim Toure was even saying that we don't have much, but we will share with you, Nigeria, because they saw that there were sanctionings. So I don't know if you know of any organizations that, you know, like when you go to like to Sainsbury's or whatever, there's food banks, there's a basket to give things to Ukraine or whatever. I don't know if there's anything that we could do over here to show support.
Do you know what? I believe there is, and I believe I am one degree still not even separated. Basically, my family interviewed some brothers from Niger just last week, and I wasn't there, so I didn't get to connect with the brothers myself. But I believe that is actually taking place, so I'll try to find the information and get back to you.
Please, because I'd love to just be able. I know a lot of people would love to do that and just support in any which way that we can with that. But I know that people have gone to the embassies as well, which is so important because
yes.
I lined it to what we can do here is kind of what the pressures that happened with Mandela, you know, that when people started putting pressures on other governments about the high sanctions, it helped.
100.
So these are things that we can
100.
do. We can give a team of being. If there's a something that we can sign, let us sign it. If there's something else, let us go to it. You know, let's show them that you've got that support, because if they see that they've got that kind of support in the West, it will give them oomph. You know what I mean? That even their family in diaspora is
Yeah, man. You know what I'm saying? Kush D, well done. Yeah, I do got to run.
No
I'm saying, but yeah, if you're doing it, I will try to tune in. My Friday evenings are a bit sticky, but if you're doing it next week, I will definitely try to tune in, and see what I've got.
Yeah,
all right.
Thank you for joining, brother.
Raven, always can keep up the good work. Yeah, you don't know.
And let me know let me know when you're doing your panel as well. Definitely.
100%, sis. 100%. You hear from me, all right? Raven, I'm not about but you know what I'm saying, I'm supporting in spirit all the time. You know what I'm saying? So
of course,
yeah. All right, then keep up the good work. Yeah. That's up. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
That's up. Peace.
Once again, big up Empress Christie. Great presentation there. We look forward to the others. What we're going to do, we're also joined by Sister Sankofa. We're going to go for a few more minutes because we're just going to, if anyone wants to ask any questions or jump in, feel free. You can still do that. We're going to go on the last topic as well, because we started the original topic. Where is it? How can we support victims? Yeah, there we go. How can we support victims of predators? There we go. Look at that. And this is because we covered Michael Nowak, brother Polite, who's based in America, because he was part of what they call the conscious community. So it's one of them ones. The question we're asking is, when people claim to be conscious, woke, and these kind of terms, where they have knowledge about history and what's better for Black people, when they become problematic, then it has a bigger negative effect. And the idea is we have to be aware of some of the people who might be predators or problematic, and call them out, and just have situations where we're not around them. I'm just gonna play a quick video. Hold on, where is it? Video. Let's see if I've got something here. These guys. Let's find it. That one. I think I got. Yeah. Let me just give you a quick back context. Hold on.
Finally been served.
So the back context. There's the brother. Brother Polite is his name. He was He was. He took his 14-year-old stepdaughter from her mother, and then gave her drugs, took her to some kind of nightclub, and tried to have some kind of sexual interaction with her when she wasn't semi-aware. And then when he brought her back to her mother, her mother tried to ring 50 times and so on, and couldn't get through. And when he brought her back, obviously the daughter was crying and wasn't her best self, and they did like a kit where they found his DNA on her, and then this set up the trial, and we've been waiting 2 years to find out. He has never really explained what happened, but he's recently had a court case, and he's been given 7 years, proven guilty, and And yeah, she's not the first victim. I suspect not really. But what we're gonna do, what I'm just to highlight is what happened is when he got given the 7 years, I think he either had a party that same day or the day before, and maybe his wives or his friends or him posted on his Instagram. I think what he's trying to do is paint the picture that he didn't do the actions he did. And once again, because we're covering the topic, we're always going to call out behaviors, regardless of where you are. If you claim to be conscious in the black community, you can't behave a certain kind of way. So this is him in the club after he's been, I think, a night before he was to go to trial.
On this day, September 6, 2023, Michael Nowak, aka Brother Polite, has been found guilty of violating his ex's 14-year-old daughter. And he's going to serve 7 years and he will have 10 years of probation. In this video here, I'm just showing you the delusions. This man is throwing a party.
Yeah, so we also highlight narcissism within the community
for himself, saying that his charges are dropped. He also posted earlier on Instagram, his charges are dropped. He showed that he was in the gym.
So also when I was actually on his page, and one thing we're going to try to train the community's discernment. What you find is a lot of these individuals who come up in the conscious community because they develop a following quite young and early, and because there's so much corruption and problems in the world that anyone who gives knowledge can really be seen as a very beneficial person. He still has supporters, and I think when he does all these kind of videos, he's trying to at least keep them because they never really do fact checks.
Having a great time. He's living his best life. He even made a music video in reference to his case, which I'm going to play at the end. And no, I'm not promoting him. I just want you to see what narcissism looks like. You know, I speak about narcissism.
Yeah, he's giving me narcissistic vibes. Once again, we're doing this just to train the community how to spot predators and people who, like, we could see clearly there was problems with him when scam things came forward. He started networking the European kind of community stuff and European women, and then trying to be a rapper and this kind of stuff. There's not wrong with trying to be a rapper, but it's just there was a big shift in his behavior. Not really a shift. It's just what he was doing became more plain, I guess. Once again, we're just trying to give the community heads up, and we're going to do it to certain guys in the UK as well, who, you know, once they get on the scene, if they claim to do certain things and they don't do it, they have a problematic behavior pattern, we have to highlight. Because I guess the question is, how do we protect people from predators? And that is highlight their predatory behavior.
A lot.
That's why I big up Sister Afro Rose. That's what she does. I wanted to check her show today, but it comes at the same time as mine. And there was one gentleman who was threatening her. So not threatening her, but being very displeased with her on the internet. And I've had run-ins with him myself, so I've offered her my support. But it is important. I've kept quite silent about a lot of the corrupted people I've come across, but I think I should talk more. Ask me to be merciful and offer them guidance privately. But I think once a person becomes very problematic and they have issues with women and threats and children and stuff, once you're aware, you got to call them out and obviously, you know, get them help or get them out, really.
Much respect for that.
Yeah, and that's rare talks we've made. So his name is Adnan, the guy we're talking about. He was an individual who came up to me in the park and accused me of exploiting black people. I didn't know him, didn't know me, so I already assumed that he was very peculiar. But then as time has gone by, this same gentleman has gone on to make questionable behavioral questions about women and some allude to underage women and just odd behavior. And now he was threatening, not threatening, but being highly disrespectful to Sister Afro. So obviously we have to, it's my job to call it out, and maybe we'll cover it next week. Or he's always welcome to join on. We're always going to talk to him so we can try to school him and educate him on how to behave himself. But just the black women understand that there's obviously black men who's gonna do the right thing and work with the community to fix the shortcoming. But over in the States, obviously, this is going on, so we're going to carry on listening to this. They both live. Yeah. Is that you mean? Yeah, me and Sister Afro, our shows are both live at the same time.
It's one of them. He's actually one of the worst kind, one that will violate a child. There's full proof and he'll still deny it. He was the cause of someone being so depressed and stressed out to where he lost his life. This sentence isn't enough. It really isn't. But he'll probably pay behind those walls.
So anyway, he went on to do that, and what I'm going to also play is what he's been given 7 years. 7 years, and do I have this other video? Let me see what I got there. No, oh God, I don't see that. All right, cool. So what I found interesting is when he got arrested and he's doing 7 years as we speak. Oh no, we say no. Real Talks and the sister are both live now. Oh, they're attacking each other. Ah, you see, I would love to jump in and defend the sister if he's. I mean, can I jump in and defend him now live? Can you do a cross live? I don't even know.
Yeah, you can.
How'd you do that? How'd you do that?
I forgot how they did it. I don't even know if you can still do it on, because you're not on. You're on the new one now, aren't you?
No, I'm on StreamYard, isn't it? So let me see if sister for it.
Let me check if she's still live.
Yeah, because she's live on my thing. Hold on, she's still talking. So I would have liked to jump in and just be a man backup against, I guess, another man shouting. But let me see if he's. Let's see. Yeah, is it? Yeah, so I'm just checking out everything. So
She's live. She's still going.
Okay, cool. Well, maybe afterwards I'll jump off and we end this quickly. But I'm just going to play one video that this gentleman's done. Hold on, stop, present, video. So when he went to jail, I think he would have got maybe a supporter to play this. So this is also problematic behavior. So this is what he posted when he.
The mother and the daughter and the prosecution dropped every single sexual charge.
So what he tried to do is he didn't want to be registered as a sex offender, so she agreed to that. But so I don't know what he's talking about. But once again, this is all kind of like strategies, I guess, for him to not lose his following and stuff.
I'm saying it again. The mother, the daughter, my accusers.
Now, obviously, people think I'm very old-fashioned, but when people start effing and blinding and doing profanity and very sexually explicit content, I'm saying that there's not. I don't think that's necessarily a good look for conscious content and conscious community stuff. But it seems to be very trendy, and but you didn't find that once again. It's hard to discern between that behavior and obviously other destructive behaviors. And this gentleman will engage in all sorts. For me personally, his behavior pattern from day it was very similar to, I guess, the brother who's going at Sister Afro at the moment. It's like they can't really control their urges and their moods. And this man seems to have no remorse for the fact that he's abused a 14-year-old.
In addition to the state, the prosecution all agreed they need to drop all of the sexual charges. So yeah, it's a victory, but it's bittersweet. It's a victory because I was facing life. No parole, no probation. Now you
Keep in mind, this is a gentleman who he interviewed many years back, alleged victim of Dr. York. And he said that even if Dr. York did molest this individual, he would still see him as his personal God. So once again, I don't know how he was raised or his mindset, but just like the people he's been scamming, he might have himself been that kind of really weak-minded person where they've got not much going on in their life and they look towards certain so-called woke individuals who have certain kind of knowledge to lead them, and that leaves many people very vulnerable. And in our community, we have to really look out for them, and we have to have philosophies and ways of operating that protects those people. You see, because some people are very easy to exploit, and people like this will run laps around them.
You may say, how could this be possible if a minor was so-called molested and there was DNA evidence? And people say DNA don't lie. And I always said, people do.
his DNA was found and then it was a match.
Well, let's do this. The serologist, the expert that so-called found 6 semen stains amongst a headscarf and a t-shirt. Never mind the fact the whole rape kit said negative. They checked this girl for.
So I think I don't want to go into detail, but he never actually did traditional type of intercourse. It was other stuff, and his biological stuff was on the minor.
It's semen.
5 different
Semen. There you go.
types of DNA, finger DNA, all types of different DNA. Checked her vagina, checked her mouth, checked the saliva, checked.
And what we have to realize is he is displaying a lot of narcissistic behaviors, and also this is a woman whose legend was meant to be his wife or ex-wife or something, and her daughter, and it doesn't seem to be, there seems to be no remorse. But then I guess if he's trying to paint the picture that they were lying, maybe he wouldn't. I don't know.
Her excrement.
He hasn't said they were lying. He hasn't actually given any kind of.
Brother Chemo said that there's been 6 DNA samples that was found.
There you go. Yeah, and I think he I forgot what I was going to say now, but either or, this is stuff we have to watch out for. He isn't highlighting anything he's done. He hasn't recapped what went wrong or what happened or what allegedly happened. He hasn't said it.
Checked her feces, checked her urine. Everything came up negative.
I mean, what people want to know, what will happen for you to be with a 14-year-old alone when the mother's trying to ring and you said you're going to talk to her about some issue, and then you took her to a club and got her to take some kind of drugs and alcohol. How does this happen? He hasn't explained this. The idea is when we come across and this behavior here, and obviously the other brother who's threatening Sister Aqua, once we highlight this, we can't really support it. Like, we, as men especially, we have to offer them guidance and a way to repent and a way to fix the damage they've done. But even in that process, they can't be left alone. They can't be given any kind of real exposure. This brother has been caught scamming as well as sexually assaulting a minor. This is too much. This cannot be accepted. Yeah.
So this person that's addressing Sister Afua, is this the Adnan person that got mentioned? Is that the same person?
Yeah, same individual. Yeah.
Okay, and he's black, is he?
He is a black guy. I've met him in Speaker's Corner 4 or 5 years ago.
Okay.
And every time, everything I've seen of him is quite hostile towards me as well. Very hostile. And
I think this kind of, do you know what this rings to me though? I feel like the take home message from this is that when they first showed us who they were, we should have believed them. We can't keep, like what you said before, like we can't keep. You said it in such a nice way about something in private and repent or something, the way you said it. And I've said this to you, and I've said this to Brother Raven, I've said this to other brothers, I've said to Shakarat, sometimes they don't even understand the blight that you're giving them.
No.
So even though you are doing this for their sake and you are giving them this blight, they don't even understand it. And if you don't understand it, you can't appreciate it.
No.
And so this is why I just think that this cutting it off from the root, the first incident, it's a wrap.
I agree. The thing is, with me, everything has to have a protocol. So it's like once someone becomes problematic and potentially dangerous, they can't be in any certain environments that people are warned about them. But then you offer them an explanation of what they're doing and how to change.
Yeah.
But they can't be in any scenario where they're around potential victims or people they can manipulate. But people have to be made aware. Sometimes you first meet someone, it's hard to tell, but it's consistency. This individual here, as well as the other brother. The other brother is slightly different because he's more verbally abusive and a deceiver and a narcissist. And he looks like he wants clicks and he wants to, that kind of stuff. And he puts himself in certain kind of communities or whatever it is, right? I know he's been banned from quite a few environments, right? But it's more so to, protect women, because when men talk a certain way, especially about elders, then you know that they're, you just have to be mindful. Make sure that the sisters have proper protection in place and people looking out for their best interest. That's just what it is. But yeah, this individual, he's in jail as we speak at the moment. This particular American-based polite.
You would think because of all the violent acts I was accused of, how I came inside of her, how I
that was never one of the claims.
Came on her face, how I bust her mouth open from penetrating her so physically, that there would be some kind of trace of something.
Yeah, I think there were 6 traces they found.
Some kind of DNA, but the rape kit.
So the rape kit won't work because it deals with a particular type of assault, while this one is different. So the question is, as a man, how comes your semen stains, six stains is on 14-year-old? Why was she intoxicated when she was in your care? What I haven't got. Oh, hold on. Now let me actually to be honest, and you guys might not want to hear it, but if not, I'll stop it. But let me just. I think I had it here somewhere. This is the actual.
It's finally been served.
I forgot. I actually had this somewhere. The actual one.
Attendance of witnesses on your.
So I've actually got the court case of him admitting all the stuff. We're not gonna. So we can listen to that before whatever. But I've also got the mother speaking about, her last words to him before, she went to jail. He went to jail.
You thought that money.
So this is her. So if it's too much for our sisters and brothers, just tell me and I'll stop it. Let's see.
I thought you were gonna.
All right, let's take it back a bit. Let's see if I can find it.
When I'm not even.
Right, 4 seconds, fam.
Pursuant to Marcy's law, that her identity remain anonymous. So for that reason, she'll not.
So he tried to get the court recording muted so no one can hear him because he's trying to paint a picture that he's innocent, as he probably would. But once again, from America to England to Canada to wherever it is, we want to look out for people who are in the community, who have shows, podcasts, and speak on certain things. And if they've got predatory behavior, we want to call them out straight away.
Not be stating her name, but she will be making a statement regarding this.
Where would it
It
be?
should say victim and then in parentheses Milk. Sorry. You see it when it says victim? Nope.
Let's get.
All right, you may unmute, ma'am.
There we go. This is her speaking.
Good morning, Your Honor.
If it gets too much, it's time to stop.
Good morning. All right, so what I'd like you to do is, well, you don't want to give your name. So at this point, just go ahead and you can give us an impact statement. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Michael Nowak. This is the first time I have spoken publicly about what you've done to my daughter and I. I have gracefully remained silent the last 2.5 years. 2.5 years of pain, shock, disbelief, PTSD, constant nightmares, and daily triggers. Trying to help my daughter heal when I'm not even healed myself. What you have done to my daughter, myself, and my entire family is inexcusable. You hurt us all. You made me believe that you were such a great man and you could do no wrong. You made me fully trust you, and for that, my daughter trusted you too. But the truth is, you're a monster, a demon. The very first time that I allowed you to be alone with my daughter, the very first time, and you couldn't even help yourself. You told me you was going to be right back. You were going downstairs. We were going to grab food and take vacation pictures. You told me that you wanted to have a one-on-one talk with her about loving and respecting me as a great mother that I was and am. And I actually believed you. I believed that you were going to bring her right back. I thought you were going to have this trusting conversation with her that you promised me. Her and I both trusted you. For a grown man to violate a child who trusted him, you should be ashamed of yourself. You plotted on me and my little girl. The entire time you knew what you planned to do. Isolate and intoxicate, then violate my baby. Shame on you. I trusted you to bring her right back. You were supposed to bring her back the same way that you took her. Instead, you drugged her and took advantage of her. You sexually abused her. You forced alcohol down her throat. You then forced her to see things that no child should ever have to see. You forced her to feel things that no child should have to feel. You forced her to accept violence that no child should ever have to endure. You forced drugs in her that no human should ever even ingest. She's my child. My baby. How could you? How could you? You could have killed her with all the drugs that were found in her system.
Damn.
And you thought your master plan was mapped out perfectly, huh? You thought I'd be dumb enough to believe you over my child. And you thought that money would blind me. You thought I was going to be so blinded that I wouldn't notice when you returned her with bruises all over her body and her mouth busted, uncontrollably shaking. Absolutely not. And although you executed your plan and you got what you wanted those couple of hours, you actually failed. Because look where you're at right now. You have created a lifetime of trauma for my daughter and I. Before you, we never knew evil existed. You brought so much evil into our lives that early morning, and I'll never forget. I called you like 50 times and you wouldn't answer me. And I called her too, but you took her phone. You drugged my baby and you gave her no way to seek help. You left me no way to contact her, even know where she was. I get physically sick now whenever I'm away from my daughter because of you. Something as simple as her going to school, I'm in panic mode. Because I'm scared when she comes back, she's going to be hurt all over again. I constantly have flashbacks of that night. And what she lives with is not okay. She feels uncomfortable around people and will live with this forever, and this is not fair to her. She never deserved this. Shame on you for forcing evil on our youth. And you know, for a year, I questioned, how could you even do this to us? Her and I did nothing wrong to you. We trusted you. I moved across the country because I believed everything that you told me. But it was pure manipulation I see now. All you do is specialize in selling false dreams. How could you do this to an innocent child and mother who simply trusted you? We did nothing wrong. But you know what? I'm done breaking my head trying to question or figure out how you could do such a thing. It's so simple to me now. You're just a sick man. A man you can have a plethora of women, but you secretly prefer to have a child. And it's so clear now. I will never be able to fully trust another person due to the betrayal that you've shown me. And for that, I was not willing to trust 6 strangers and go to trial. Nor was I going to put my daughter through an additional trauma. This plea was in our best interest. You and I both know the evidence is extremely substantial. But even with that, I refuse to have my child be tormented when she's done nothing wrong. All she holds is the truth. And I will say this, although you were so worried about being labeled a sex offender, you did us a huge favor by admitting to guilt, period. So for that, I thank you. I truly thank you. Yes, mitigation took place and I allowed it as long as it meant you going to prison and you getting true help. Because true help means no more victims. The fact that your only non-negotiable was to accept the sex crime shows exactly the type of man that you are. You know what you did in that hotel room. I know what you did, and my daughter knows what you did. DNA doesn't lie. There's no reason why your DNA should have been found on my baby. And yes, I satisfied your bogus request to not be labeled a sex offender, but it doesn't take away from who you truly are. I wasn't going to waste any time going back and forth with you over a label. God will judge you for exactly the person he knows you to be, a sexual predator. So rest assured, jail time equals jail time. And I pray that during your 10 years of sex offender probation, you actually receive the treatment that you need, and it helps heal your sick mind and get the thoughts of being with children out of it. All you care about is your pretend image, but I know exactly who you are now. You want to be this public figure, but you want to do all your evil acts in secret. You're so self-centered. That's why the last time I saw you on February 27, 2021, you fought me. You tried to hold me hostage from taking my daughter to the hospital. I'll never forget that cowardly look in your eyes. I'll never forget it. You were so scared. You were so scared because you realized you messed with the wrong one. Your last words to me, you held me and said, "Please don't go. You're going to ruin my career." Well, today, September 6th, 2023, my last words to you are, I hope the next 17 years of your life, you're reminded of the disgusting, terrifying, unforgettable act that you've done to my innocent daughter. Shame on you. And although you've caused a tremendous amount of trauma for myself and my daughter, we will and will always be superior of you, because a successful, honest career is something that you could never, ever have. We will both continue to stand against violence. My daughter will continue to persevere and be bright and intelligent and courageous young woman that she is. So, Michael Nowak, I hope you enjoy prison, and God bless you.
Hello? Is the internet world out there? Is it?
Man.
Oh, family. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
I was there talking to myself and then it was on mute. There you
Yeah.
go. Well done, Sanko. You did a good job there. So, quick, what I was saying, I said some amazing things. I just can't even remember it now. But what I was saying is, big up to the sister there for giving a testimony. And we have to show support. And what I was saying was, we have to try to have exercise on how best to support the victims and how to speak online and in person that doesn't undermine or belittle or make victims feel even shocked or scared or have anxiety about coming forward. And also, whenever men behave problematic, and this is more so to men, behave problematic in public and stuff, as men, we've got to be seen visually doing something. Yeah? So I actually kind of want to end this show quite soon to jump onto Sister Afro's panel, just to show some kind of support, because I understand that this individual UK variant of this kind of behavior is it looks being harsh towards the sister, and we just have to have all the men show support and also collect our information of what we know of the gentleman, just to make sure that we're aware of the behavioral patterns. I'm going to put a link to the sister's page, but also, you know, big up the sister who spoke on Michael Nowak, polite, and is someone saying so? Who said the mother's a groomer?
No. Kimo was just giving us some background. So it's not the mother. It's because Michael Sunak has 4 wives. One of the wives are still actively supporting him.
Yeah.
Okay. That's been given out recently. So what Brother Kimo was saying, so any videos that you see of Polite or has recently been uploaded, it's the wife. That particular wife, and he's saying that she's just as bad as him. She's a groomer, just as bad as him. Not the mother.
Good. I think they said they've been together since he was 13 and she was 12, so she's probably been with him all his life. And I think his lifestyle, because I suspect he isn't that well off, and he likes painting pictures of being well off. I know that they borrow money and they sleep in certain kind of hotels and this kind of stuff. That she would have had to really be quite supportive of him throughout all this and tolerate this and maybe he must be a good speaker saying. But either way, he's in jail for 7 years now. But we have to make sure that whenever we see his
baby, he only got 7, to be honest. I hope he gets dealt with accordingly.
Well, he's
those
got
are Christy's words, not Black Betterment.
Yeah, he's got 10 years afterwards of
probation,
and he might get out on good behavior at 4.
Exactly,
that works. But more importantly than that is the awareness. The awareness of what he's done. So anytime he does stuff, we can call him out. Just like what's happening with this Brother Anand case, people are coming forward with other behavioral patterns that he's done. And I think that's what they're doing now. So family.
Yeah, they're showing a video of him now. I've recognized his face.
Let me end the thing. But first I say big up to Empress and Sister Sankofa Rising. I'm going to push the link to the other channel we're going to go and support. But if any last words you'd like to say, Sister, before we log off?
I just want to say thank you for the time of doing my first African Rising. I think it went good, so I'll definitely try to carry on the series and just keep an eye on it. But especially I just want to thank the family as well, because I know we had some other topics on there as well, and the fact that everybody was so supportive and just participating in the chats or coming up and talking about it. It's just beautiful to see, because although we've got these things that we have to like with Polite and things like that as well, we've also got other things within the continent that we need to look on as well. So it's nice to just have a space where the family support me in that, and it was just received well. So I just want to say thank you for that. Thank you to all the family and everyone who came through and supported.
Yeah, big up everyone. There's so much I could say on this situation, but I'm not gonna. And it's more to do with the community and how we, I don't know. I didn't read it, but when people refer to people as a hotep, like hotep means peace. When it becomes an insult, is like where are we here? But again, our measurement of leadership and actions and all them type of things there. So it just speaks to where we're at holistically.
I agree.
All right, family. Well, thanks for that. I'm jumping across now. So speak to you, family, next week. Until then, Black Betterment. Have a good time.